The ocean is rarely still. Even on nights when the moon hangs like a polished coin above the horizon, the Atlantic breathes with a tidal murmur. Reefs rasp beneath the swell, and distant thunder walks the water toward unseen coasts. In one corner of this immensity, the noises gather into something like a language. Mariners once called it superstition. Cartographers marked it with nothing at all. Yet the whispers persisted, braided from storm, current, and rumor, until the place acquired a presence that outlived any map. Here waves steepen without warning. Trade winds stumble against warm fronts, rising from the Caribbean. Cumulus towers assemble by noon and unravel at dusk into a shimmer that confuses trained eyes. Instruments speak in quiet syllables: altimeter, compass, radio, while the sea replies with its own lexicon. Surge, rip, gyre. The parts feel ordinary. The sum feels uncanny, as if a chord turns dissonant only when all notes are sounded together. Long before headlines spoke of vanishings, there were logbooks. A Genoese navigator in 1492 recorded wandering needles and lights that glided above the water like moving fires. 17th century pilots noted sudden calms and sudden gales in the same week. Fishing boats returned with reports of fog that smelled like metal and coiled around masts without a wind to carry it. Individual entries seemed trivial. Together, their cadence suggested a region with a personality. Viewed clinically, the map sketches a figure. Miami in the west, Bermuda in the north, Puerto Rico in the south, 3 points tethered by tradition more than mathematics. Nothing in the water acknowledges the lines humans draw. The Gulf Stream slashes northeast like a river hundreds of miles wide, gathering wreckage and redistributing it with indifference. Below the surface, a staircase of seamounts lifts from abyssal plains. Sand pours off their flanks in underwater avalanches. Canyons funnel currents like wind between towers. From the air, the surface looks lacquered and harmless. Beneath, it is machinery. Mainstream explanations arrive first, the way dawn arrives, gradually illuminating what is already there. Storm density is high. Traffic density is higher. Human error, magnified by fatigue and pressure, spares no coastline. Tropical cyclones carve arcs through this corridor in late summer with scything grace. Squall lines hide within larger bodies, ambushing aircraft that misread their teeth. There is talk of rogue waves steep, freakish walls born from intersecting swells, and of shoals that shift after storms, moving danger where charts still insist on safety. Yet the ledger of ordinary hazard cannot fully quiet the remainder. It is the remainder that lingers in retellings. An SOS cut off mid-syllable, running lights glimpsed once and never again. A watch clock that stopped at an hour no one could explain. Radio transcripts describe calm voices reporting conditions that contradict instruments. Some witnesses speak of cloud banks shaped like tunnels, and of a brightness within them that feels more like static than light. The sea does not answer such details. It absorbs them. Odd facts cling to the legend like barnacles. A freighter is found adrift with tables set below deck and no crew above it. A training flight disappears near day's end, though fuel should have been sufficient, and the search plane that follows leaves behind its own uncertainty. Each item endures not because it proves a theory, but because it refuses to be ordinary. What gives the region its hold on imagination is not only loss, but texture. The water changes color in bands. Turquoise over the Bahama banks, pewter in the tongue of the ocean. Blue so deep, it appears black over the Puerto Rico trench. Coral gardens begin and end abruptly as if trimmed by an unseen hand. Flight paths nick the edges of storms that rise like towers from the surface. The radioscape is crowded commercial chatter, weather, training, and within that crowd, silences grow loud. Skepticism is not an enemy here. It is ballast. Insurance records reveal that many famous incidents occurred far from the canonical corners. Statisticians remind that concentrated traffic ensures concentrated mishap, And that narratives mislead when they select only what supports the theme. All of this is true. And still the whisper persists, because the whisper never promised proof. It promised attention. Consider the physics of forgetting. Salt water dissolves rope, cloth, memory. Steel oxidizes to orange lace. Currents spin a bloom of debris into a thin horizon and carry it apart until no piece knows the others. Recorders corrode. Coordinates are mistranscribed in the hurry of rescue. What remains for history to hold are reports, rumors, and the sled of those who survived. The ocean is not obliged to be an archive. Meanwhile, culture does the opposite. It remembers fervently. A magazine phrase stirs the public. A paperback aligns scattered tragedies into a single drama. Filmmakers lend strings and thunder to the narrative. The legend deepens with each retelling, and in deepening, attracts new stories that match its contours, a feedback loop of dread and wonder. For those who work these waters, the legend becomes background noise. Barges push from Port Everglades and curve east. Island male pilots cross between showers that bead on the canopy. Fishermen read the tide by color as their grandparents did. Routine is its own quiet miracle, but routine never negates risk, and risk never exhausts wonder. Somewhere between those truths, the triangle resides, neither singular nor mundane, a theater in which probability and possibility share the same stage. Centuries earlier, the same space bore other names. To Spanish pilots, it was the Bahama Channel. To English privateers, it was a hunting ground for treasure fleets. To enslaved Africans forced across these latitudes, it was a corridor of grief that remade the world. The ocean contains history and layers, and the modern legend is only one among many. Perhaps contemporary minds return to it, not to prove an anomaly, but to hear echoes of older crossings inside the present rumor of wind and wave. What is really hiding here might be the familiar dressed in drama weather, geography, human limits. Or it might be something less measurable. A predisposition toward story in the face of uncertainty. A need to weave pattern through the random scatter of the waves. The answer shifts like glare on water. From one angle, banality. From another, omen. The surface cannot be trusted to hold the same color when the light changes. Better satellites fleece the sky for data. Better models plot the probable track of wind and sea. Better beacons ping from hulls and fuselages. The region grows more legible each decade, and yet the legend refuses to retire. Every new instrument is a candle that also projects a longer shadow. This chapter of Whispers closes not with certainty, but with attention. The lines between the triangle's points remain imaginary. The forces within those lines remain real. Between them stretches a space where caution touches wonder, and wonder leans toward fear. That space is where the story breathes. Moving from atmosphere to chart, the narrative follows those who tried to convert rumor into outline. Coordinates assembled into a shape that minds could hold, and a name that newspapers could print. The myth learned to read a map, and the sea, unchanged, continued to speak in weather. With borders sketched, the stage was set for definitions to be followed, inevitably, by dispute. To speak of the Bermuda Triangle is to speak of an outline drawn in imagination first, and only later on paper. For centuries, no mariner believed himself to be passing through a bounded shape. He was simply crossing seas, the Straits of Florida, the Bahama Channel, the open Atlantic. The waters carried no special name, and the compass points of Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico were scattered markers of trade rather than vertices of myth. The triangle was born not at sea, but in stories that tried to tame the sea into a figure the mind could hold. The geography, however, is real. At its western anchor lies Miami, once a frontier settlement pressed against mangrove and marsh, now a metropolis whose skyline glitters against the horizon like a necklace of glass. From there the line extends northeast, more than 600 miles, toward Bermuda, a lonely limestone outcrop in the mid-Atlantic, often wrapped in cloud and ringed by treacherous reefs. The third leg reaches southeast to Puerto Rico, gateway to the Caribbean and sentinel to the deep Puerto Rico Trench, a scar in the seafloor that plunges more than 5 miles. Draw these 3 points together, and the space between them forms the figure now infamous, a triangle resting lightly on the sea. In the early maps of European explorers, such precision was absent. Parchment charts of the 16th and 17th centuries depicted the Caribbean as a realm of islands strung like beads, their shapes distorted, their coastlines uncertain. Sea monsters loomed in the margins, reminders that cartography was less a science than a prayer. To Spanish pilots shepherding treasure fleets, the waters east of Florida were simply a corridor fraught with storms and corsairs. To enslaved Africans forced across these latitudes, it was a passage of sorrow without geometry. None thought to enclose it with lines. The very act of charting imposes order where nature resists it. Latitude and longitude reduced turbulence to coordinates, as if numbers could steady the deck beneath a rolling sky. Mariners copied each other's observations, gradually refining the coastlines of Florida and the Bahamas until reefs, shoals, and passes assumed their rightful positions on paper. The triangle was not yet there, but its ingredients were assembling. A congested strait where the Gulf Stream poured north like a river, a scattering of low islands that concealed rocks like teeth, and a trench that dropped into blackness so profound it swallowed anchors and hope alike. Centuries later, the concept of the triangle surfaced not from sailors, but from writers. In 1964, a magazine article by Vincent Gaddis gave the name shape, popularizing the phrase Bermuda Triangle for a region long whispered about. Gaddis pointed to disappearances ships, planes, crews lost without trace, and gathered them within the geometry of 3 chosen points. The effect was immediate. What had been diffuse rumor congealed into a single, graspable idea that a patch of ocean could be haunted, not merely perilous. But to imagine the triangle only as an invention of the 20th century is to miss its deeper lineage. Earlier chroniclers had already hinted at zones of peril. A Spanish map from the 1500s, held today in Seville, marks waters north of Cuba with cryptic notes about sudden storms. British naval records in the 1700s warned of bewildering currents east of the Bahamas. Even Columbus, in his first crossing, described compass needles that drifted strangely as his ships entered these latitudes. Each observation was a puzzle piece. Only later would someone decide they belonged to the same puzzle. The choice of Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico as vertices is less about science than symbolism. Miami stands for the modern world, with its airfields and crowded harbors. Bermuda is the outpost, remote and storm-prone, a reminder of isolation. Puerto Rico anchors the Caribbean, rich with history and edged by the deepest waters of the Atlantic. Together, they create not just a map, but a stage 3 corners between which drama could unfold. Oddly enough, no official body recognizes the Bermuda Triangle. The United States Board on Geographic Names does not list it. Maritime charts show no shaded region. Air traffic controllers give no special warning when pilots file routes through its skies. In practical terms, it does not exist. Yet in cultural terms, it looms larger than any official designation. The line between reality and story is not drawn on a map, but in the imagination of those who hear the phrase and picture something uncanny spreading over blue water. Still, the geography contributes to the story in quiet ways. The Gulf Stream rushes northward along the Florida coast, swift enough to sweep wreckage far from where it sank. The Bahamas lie across shallow banks where storms churn up sand, hiding evidence beneath shifting seabeds. The Puerto Rico Trench descends into such depth that wrecks are irretrievable, their signals lost to silence. To an investigator, these features are practical obstacles. To a storyteller, they are conspirators, hiding traces so thoroughly that only mystery remains. Even the skies participate. Warm air from the tropics collides with cooler fronts sliding from the north, generating thunderheads that rise like fortresses. Squall lines ambush planes and ships alike, often with little warning. In an era before satellites, such storms appeared suddenly, erasing horizons with sheets of rain. To those caught in them, the boundaries of the triangle might have felt as palpable as walls. As the legend grew, maps began to display the triangle in bold outlines, a neat geometry imposed upon a chaotic sea. Travel books cautioned tourists with half-serious warnings. Novelists used the outline as a backdrop for disappearances, both real and imagined. With each retelling, the borders grew firmer, until the world seemed to accept that there was indeed a triangle waiting in the Atlantic, its edges drawn not by science, but by story. And yet, the act of charting has always been double-edged. To enclose a region is to risk misrepresenting it, to suggest that danger lives within the lines and safety beyond. The ocean does not obey such boundaries. Hurricanes sweep far wider. Currents span thousands of miles. A shipwreck off Cape Hatteras may have more in common with one near Nassau than with another inside the triangle. Still, the shape endures because the human mind prefers enclosure to sprawl, figure to fog. Thus, the Bermuda Triangle exists at the intersection of map and myth. It is real enough to point to on a globe, yet imaginary enough that no two charts draw it quite the same. Its borders float, elastic, shifting with each retelling. Some widen it to include the Azores. Others shrink it to little more than the Bahamas. The only constant is the idea that geometry itself can hold mystery, that straight lines can capture the crookedness of fate. As the story moves forward, the triangle becomes more than a figure. It becomes a stage for vanishings, a backdrop for odd facts and sudden silences. The chart has been drawn. The next question is what happens inside it. The sea holds memories long before men set them to paper. Some are written in tide and current, others in the fading recollections of sailors who dared to cross uncharted waters. The first whispers of what would later be called the Bermuda Triangle reach back to the dawn of European exploration in the Americas, when the horizon was still a place of dread, and the Atlantic seemed less an ocean than a living creature, capricious and unfathomable. In 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed westward from Spain in search of new lands. His caravels, the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, moved cautiously across waters no European fleet had crossed in centuries. Each night, the crews scanned the skies for stars and the horizon for land, their hearts divided between fear and hope. But somewhere near the region later bound into the fateful triangle, strange phenomena were recorded in the Admiral's log. Columbus noted that his compass behaved oddly. The needle, instead of pointing reliably north, wavered, drifting in ways that unsettled his pilots. Though later scholars would attribute the deviation to the natural difference between magnetic north and true north, phenomenon known as magnetic declination, the experience was unnerving for men who relied on steady instruments to chart their course. To them, the compass was not a mere tool, but a lifeline. Its faltering cast shadows of doubt over seas already filled with uncertainty. One night, as the crew kept vigil on deck, a great light was observed rising from the horizon. It appeared suddenly, glowing with a brightness unlike any star, before plunging into the sea in the distance. Some described it as a flame, others as a ball of fire descending into the waves. Columbus himself wrote of it, though he offered no explanation. To sailors schooled in superstition, it could only mean an omen, whether of discovery or disaster, none could say. The Atlantic had revealed itself not just as water and sky, but as a stage for the inexplicable. Centuries later, as European empires expanded and trade routes multiplied, the Caribbean became a crossroads of ships laden with riches. Silver from the mines of Mexico, sugar from the plantations of Hispaniola, and spices from across the Indies all passed through the waters east of Florida. The seas were crowded, yet perilous. Hurricanes, reefs, and piracy claimed their share of vessels. But amid these expected dangers were vanishings that left no trace at all, confounding even the most seasoned mariners. One of the earliest recorded mysteries concerned the Rosalie, a French merchant brig discovered drifting near the Bahamas in 1840. The ship was intact, her cargo undisturbed, her sails still set, yet the crew was gone. No struggle, no storm damage, no clue as to why the men had abandoned her. She drifted silently on the tide, a ghost ship in waters that gave no answers. The Rosalie's fate entered maritime lore, her absence of crew echoing in the same tones that would later surround the Triangle's name. Another enigma surfaced with the disappearance of the HMS Atalanta, a British training ship carrying more than 280 men. In 1880, she vanished while crossing from Bermuda to England. Though storms were suspected, no wreckage was ever found. The families of the sailors waited for word that never came, their grief sharpened by the absence of explanation. In the public imagination, the ocean itself had swallowed the ship whole. Between these disappearances and others, a pattern began to form, not yet in geometric lines, but in human minds. Ships were not only wrecking upon reefs or sinking in storms, they were being erased. Survivors were rare, evidence rarer still. The sea was behaving as though it conspired to conceal its secrets. It is important to recall that in the 19th century, the Atlantic was already a theater of ghostly tales. Sailors spoke of phantom ships seen gliding across moonlit horizons, only to vanish when approached. Stories of the Flying Dutchman circulated widely, reinforcing the belief that some vessels were doomed to wander forever without harbor. Within this culture of superstition, the unexplained vanishings near Bermuda acquired an extra charge. They were not isolated accidents. They were fulfillments of ancient fears. The Mary Celeste, though not a Bermuda case, colored the imagination of the era. Found adrift in 1872 in the Atlantic with her cargo intact but crew missing, she stood as proof that the sea could remove men without disturbing their possessions. Each new report of an abandoned vessel in western Atlantic waters summoned echoes of her story, weaving a web of maritime mystery that thickened over time. Meanwhile, insurers and naval authorities tried to impose rational order. They cataloged losses, noting hurricanes, sudden squalls, and the tricky currents of the Gulf Stream. They pointed to wooden hulls weakened by shipworm, to inexperienced crews, to the hazards of long voyages without fresh supplies. And often, these explanations sufficed. Yet not always. The Rosalie's empty decks remained unexplained. The Atalanta's absence lingered like an open wound. The numbers told one story, but the silences told another. As the 19th century gave way to the 20th, these early tales hardened into legend. They became the foundation upon which writers would later build the edifice of the Bermuda Triangle. Columbus's wandering compass, the fireball plunging into the sea, the ghost ship drifting with no crew all, were bricks in a structure that would loom larger with each passing decade. One odd fact stands out. Many of these stories reached the public through newspapers eager for sensation. In an age when transatlantic cables were new, reports of maritime mysteries sold papers in London, New York, and Havana. Readers, far from the salt and storm of the ocean, consumed these tales with fascination. Each vanished ship was not merely a loss at sea, it was a riddle delivered to the breakfast table. The public, craving both fear and wonder, became complicit in turning accidents into myth. Thus the first vanishings occupy a strange place in history. They are at once factual: ships did disappear, compasses did falter, and yet embroidered by the imagination of those who recorded them. Whether natural or supernatural, they serve as prelude to the crescendo of disappearances in the 20th century. Before the age of flight, before the words Bermuda Triangle had even been coined, the waters had already whispered of secrets too deep to ignore. And so the stage was set. The early records had been written. The ghost ships had drifted. The omens had been observed. The sea had spoken in hints and fragments. Soon, in the modern era of radio, radar, and aviation, its mysteries would grow sharper still. The triangle, once nameless, was preparing to reveal itself with vanishings that could not be ignored. By the dawn of the 20th century, the waters once crossed by Columbus and the early mariners had become familiar to commerce and travel. Steamships plied the Gulf Stream and the Caribbean Sea with increasing regularity, while radio allowed news of maritime incidents to reach distant ports within hours rather than weeks. Yet even as modern instruments improved navigation, the ocean's reputation for mystery persisted, fed by stories that insisted the Atlantic was not only a place of trade and travel, but also a realm of inexplicable disappearance. The first glimmers of the Bermuda Triangle as a recognized concept began to appear in popular literature. Newspapers, hungry for sensational stories, seized on reports of vanished vessels and unexplained phenomena. Headlines shouted of "ghost ships adrift" or "pilots lost in Mayday," often embellishing the accounts with dramatic imagery. Photographs of calm seas with dark skies or distant storms glowing in the horizon accompanied tales that blurred fact and imagination. For the public, the Atlantic became a theater of danger, a stage on which the ordinary rules of travel could be suspended. In 1945, the disappearance of Flight 19 would solidify the notion of the Triangle as a sinister place. But decades earlier, authors were already shaping perception. One notable figure, Charles Berlitz, would later compile accounts of vanishing ships, errant compasses, and strange lights into a compelling narrative that captured imaginations worldwide. By connecting scattered incidents over time and space, writers transformed isolated tragedies into evidence of a pattern. The narrative was no longer about individual accidents. It was about a zone in which the ordinary could be subverted, where fate itself seemed to bend. The process of legend-making relied not only on compiling facts, but on shaping them into a story structure humans recognize. Each incident became a chapter in an unfolding mystery. Newspapers emphasized elements that suggested danger and left ambiguity unresolved. Details were amplified. Radio calls that ended mid-word. Ships discovered abandoned without a soul. Instruments that failed inexplicably. Even the mundane, a stormy night or mechanical failure was sometimes described in terms that hinted at something beyond comprehension. The story of the Triangle grew not from lies, but from selectivity and imagination. Oddly, popular culture accelerated the legend as much as reports themselves. Adventure novels, pulp magazines, and later radio broadcasts dramatized the Triangle. Writers speculated on magnetic anomalies, rogue waves, and vanishing islands, sometimes drawing from scientific hypotheses, other times inventing phenomena entirely. The result was a self-reinforcing cycle. As the public consumed these stories, journalists and authors were encouraged to report new incidents in a similar tone, further entrenching the idea of a danger zone. A triangle on a map became not merely a shape, but a psychological marker, a symbol of unpredictability at sea. Film and television would later amplify this effect. Scenes of planes spiraling into clouds or ships swallowed by fog, paired with dramatic orchestral music, cemented the Bermuda Triangle in collective imagination. Even for those who knew the statistics, the stories carried an emotional resonance that numbers could not convey. It became a place where human ambition confronted the unknown, where technology and skill might be rendered powerless by forces unseen. Meanwhile, researchers attempted to separate myth from fact. The U.S. Coast Guard, for example, emphasized that traffic density in the Atlantic naturally produces higher incident rates. Hurricanes, equipment failure, and human error account for most disappearances. Yet such rationalizations could not erase the narrative that had already taken hold. In fact, the very act of explaining the Triangle often added intrigue. Anomalies became mysterious when observed within the triangle's boundaries, while similar events elsewhere went largely ignored. Perception shaped reality, and the legend thrived. Consider the case of the Carroll A. Deering, a 5-masted schooner found in 1921 off Cape Hatteras. Its crew had vanished entirely, leaving the vessel intact. Though the investigation suggested piracy or crew mutiny, press coverage highlighted the eeriness of the unexplained. To readers, the ship was another whisper of a dangerous region, feeding the growing mythology. Such stories blurred the line between historical documentation and literary drama. The Atlantic, once a route for commerce, became a canvas for suspense. Authors also began to introduce more speculative elements. Some suggested magnetic anomalies that interfered with compasses, while others imagined underwater vortexes that could engulf vessels. While these ideas lacked definitive proof, their inclusion in books and periodicals added layers of mystery. The triangle became a locus not merely of accidents, but of potential supernatural or scientific unknowns. It was now a place where the imagination could roam freely, and the ordinary laws of navigation seemed negotiable. Public fascination was not limited to adults. Children's adventure stories depicted planes vanishing into mist or ghost ships sliding silently through moonlit waters. Educational texts occasionally referenced the triangle as a curiosity, sometimes presenting it alongside natural phenomena like the Bermuda grass or Caribbean currents. The effect was cumulative. A single geographic region had become synonymous with the extraordinary. Across decades, the triangle evolved from a corridor of misfortune to a symbol of the unknowable. Even modern writers acknowledge the subtle artistry behind the myth. By gathering isolated events over decades, authors created coherence from chaos. Each disappearance, each compass anomaly, was a note in a symphony of intrigue. Readers were not simply absorbing reports. They were participating in a larger narrative, one that hinted at hidden truths beneath the surface of routine ocean life. The Bermuda Triangle was no longer a space on the map. It was a story in which humans, water, and sky were actors in an unfolding drama. In this way, the legend crystallized. Where once the sea was simply dangerous, it became mysterious. Where once accidents were individual and disconnected, they became evidence of a pattern. And where once stories were localized, they now traveled across continents, carried by newspapers, books, and word of mouth. The triangle had emerged as both concept and character, a zone defined not solely by coordinates, but by expectation, imagination, and the human tendency to seek meaning in the unknown. By the mid-20th century, the Bermuda Triangle had a presence both invisible and undeniable. Airfields, shipping lanes, and naval charts could not contain it, for its borders existed in the public mind. To readers, pilots, and sailors, it became shorthand for the inexplicable. And the more evidence or rumor was added, the more the legend's grip tightened, drawing attention to disappearances that might otherwise have been forgotten. It was a self-sustaining phenomenon. The myth fed on itself, expanding in scale and scope. As the triangle became a fixture in culture, the world began to anticipate its stories. Each disappearance was no longer merely a statistical footnote. It was a performance, a demonstration of the Atlantic's capacity to surprise. Newspapers reported them, novels embellished them, and later documentaries would frame them in cinematic light. The boundaries were now both geographic and psychological, a place where uncertainty became tangible, and human curiosity was continually provoked. In essence, the Bermuda Triangle had transformed from a corridor of risk into a symbol of mystery itself. The pattern of vanishings, the compasses that faltered, the ghost ships, and the dramatic retellings coalesced into a legend that transcended fact. It became a mirror for human fear, curiosity, and fascination with the unknown. The stage had been set. And as the 20th century unfolded, the Triangle was ready to host stories that would cement its reputation for decades to come. The sun rose over the Atlantic on a December morning in 1945 with a calm that seemed almost deliberate. Gentle waves shimmered in the first light, stretching toward the horizon in quiet bands of silver and blue. From the air, the sea appeared endless, uniform, benign. Yet beneath that placid surface, and within the invisible currents above, the Atlantic was preparing to claim another mystery, one that would etch itself permanently into the lore of the Bermuda Triangle. 5 Navy TBM Avenger bombers lifted from the Naval Air Station at Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Their mission was routine, a training flight to conduct navigation exercises over the Atlantic, north of the Bahamas. Each aircraft carried a crew of 3, veterans of war and disciplined in their duties. Radios crackled with standard chatter, instruments were checked, compasses aligned. And yet, from the moment Flight 19 departed, the ordinary became extraordinary. The first signs of disorientation appeared quickly. Pilots reported that their compasses were erratic, fluctuating despite calibration. Lieutenant Charles Taylor, the flight leader, spoke to ground control with a tone both professional and cautious. "We can't make out our position," he said. The Atlantic, once familiar, had become unfamiliar. The Gulf Stream, the trade winds, the subtle undulations of the currents all seemed to conspire against them. Taylor's confidence, usually unshakable, was tested as instruments and perception diverged. The radio messages grew increasingly tense. One pilot reported a strange glow on the horizon, a brightness that shimmered and pulsed, seemingly stationary, yet impossible to approach. Another mentioned clouds that appeared solid, tunnel-like, stretching toward the sea in a way that defied logic. Observers on the ground could hear the uncertainty creeping into the voices of trained men. Each transmission was fragmented, sometimes overlapping, and always leaving questions unanswered. As the flight progressed, the squadron seemed to drift into a liminal space where navigation charts held no authority. Taylor attempted to correct course, relying on dead reckoning and his experience. But the winds shifted unexpectedly. Gusts appeared from directions unpredicted by meteorological reports, and the compasses continued to falter. Overhead, clouds churned and rearranged themselves in patterns that were at once mesmerizing and disorienting. The pilots had entered a region where familiarity dissolved. Meanwhile, search and rescue operations began to mobilize, unaware that Flight 19 was already entering the kind of tale that would ripple through decades. Planes and vessels scoured the waters, marking the coordinates from the last known transmissions. Yet the Atlantic yielded no answers. No wreckage surfaced, no debris was recovered. The TBM Avengers, each a robust warplane built to withstand combat, had disappeared without leaving a trace, as if the ocean had swallowed them whole. Odd facts surfaced in the aftermath that would deepen the enigma. A rescue plane, a Martin P. BM Mariner carrying 13 men, launched into the search, itself vanishing under mysterious circumstances. Its radios, too, reported unusual atmospheric interference, and nothing was ever found. 2 separate flights, lost on the same day in the same vicinity, seemed to confirm that the triangle could alter reality itself, bending both sea and sky into incomprehensible forms. The coincidence alone was enough to cement a narrative of danger beyond ordinary explanation. Flight 19 became more than a military incident. It became a symbol. Authors and journalists seized upon the story, linking it with other disappearances, both recent and historical. Headlines emphasized the strangeness. Squadron lost in mysterious Atlantic region. Planes vanish without a trace. Over time, the name Bermuda Triangle became inseparable from the tale, as Flight 19 exemplified the vulnerability of even the most disciplined human endeavor to forces that remained unseen. Alternative theories proliferated rapidly. Some suggested navigational errors, worsened by atmospheric disturbances and the Gulf Stream's deceptive currents. Others posited that unusual magnetic anomalies had interfered with the compasses, causing the squadron to circle endlessly until fuel ran out. More speculative ideas emerged, vortices in the atmosphere that could displace matter, temporal distortions, or even the influence of extraterrestrial observation. The lack of conclusive evidence made each theory plausible to some degree, leaving the story open to imagination as much as to science. There are micro-stories within the Flight 19 saga that continue to capture attention. Survivors from other nearby flights recalled seeing glimmers in the sky, unexplained lights, sometimes red, sometimes green, that moved with purpose, disappearing before any closer examination. Ground crews reported unusual static on their radios before and after the disappearances, suggesting phenomena that could not easily be explained by standard electrical interference. The air seemed to have become a medium for the extraordinary, stretching the boundaries of known aviation physics. Centuries of oceanic navigation had taught sailors to respect the sea. Flight 19, in its modernity, encountered those same truths, updated for an age of technology. The Atlantic, vast and indifferent, could still confound the most precise instruments. Pilots trained in combat, accustomed to calculating wind speed and trajectory with surgical accuracy, found themselves challenged by a theater without reference points. Even today, simulations cannot perfectly recreate the conditions they faced. Instruments alone cannot account for the human perception of disorientation and mounting anxiety that flowed through those cockpits. In time, Flight 19 became more than a case study. It became a cautionary tale. Aviation manuals reference the incident to emphasize preparedness and the need for redundant systems. Yet they cannot explain why no wreckage was recovered. Its cultural significance eclipses its statistical place in history. The narrative taps into a deep human fascination with the unknown, showing that even advanced technology is vulnerable when confronted with the vastness and subtle complexity of the ocean. Finally, Flight 19 illustrates the interplay between fact and legend. The event is documented, names are known, times recorded, but the precise sequence of occurrences remains elusive. It is a story that bridges the tangible and the intangible. Military records exist, but the disappearances themselves remain spectacularly incomplete. In that gap, the Bermuda Triangle thrives, inviting speculation and wonder alike. As the sun sets over the Atlantic, reflecting on waves that have swallowed countless vessels across centuries, Flight 19 remains suspended in memory. The ocean does not yield answers easily. It preserves them in currents and depths inaccessible to ordinary search. Yet the story of the Ghost Squadron continues to shape perceptions of the Triangle, a reminder that even in an era of modern instruments and trained pilots, the Atlantic can still surprise and confound. It is a story of human skill and human vulnerability, intertwined with a mystery that refuses to be resolved. In the sequence of vanishings that define the Bermuda Triangle, Flight 19 is the keystone. Its combination of high-profile witnesses, multiple aircraft, and complete absence of evidence created a story that would echo for decades. It is a testament to the unpredictable power of nature, the limits of technology, and the human propensity to wonder at the unknown. The Atlantic had claimed its due, yet the legend, far from diminished, had been forged stronger than ever. The Atlantic sky, vast and unbroken, has long been a theater of both human ambition and quiet terror. To navigate it is to measure oneself against winds, clouds, and currents, all imperceptible yet relentless. In the years following World War II, the Bermuda Triangle became more than a maritime mystery. It began to claim the air as well, swallowing aircraft in ways that defied comprehension, leaving behind nothing but unanswered questions. These vanishings would earn the moniker Ghosts in the Sky. One of the earliest of these mid-air disappearances involved the Douglas DC-3 in 1948. The flight carried a modest number of passengers and crew, routine in every sense. Yet somewhere along its route from San Juan to Miami, the aircraft vanished. No distress call, no debris, no fragments of communication survived. Ground crews reviewed weather reports, plotted its projected course, and found nothing unusual. Yet the plane was gone, as if it had dissolved into the Atlantic air itself. The passenger suitcases, the cargo, even the very engines, nothing was ever recovered. It was a disappearance so complete that it felt unreal, the kind that shapes legend. The following year brought the Star Tiger, a passenger aircraft flying from the Azores to Bermuda. Instruments functioned normally at departure. Passengers settled into seats, and crew performed standard checks. Then, mid-flight, radio contact ceased. Investigators noted the absence of wreckage despite systematic searches. Meteorological data suggested no violent storms, no technical failure evident from takeoff reports. It was a plane simply erased from the sky, leaving in its place a void that both scientists and the public struggled to explain. Shortly after, another aircraft, the Star Ariel, disappeared under remarkably similar circumstances. These incidents were not isolated anomalies. They hinted at a pattern. Aircraft vanished without signs of mechanical failure, collision, or weather-induced catastrophe. Pilots' records, passenger manifests, and departure logs painted the picture of routine, and yet the endpoint defied expectation. Each disappearance echoed into newspapers, drawing attention to a growing anomaly. The triangle was no longer merely a maritime hazard. Its reach extended into the air. Odd micro-stories peppered these incidents, adding layers of intrigue. Radio operators occasionally reported static interference or brief fragments of garbled communication, suggesting confusion or distress, yet nothing concrete survived. One account described the faintest trace of an aircraft signal that seemed to drift further from its expected location, as if pulled by unseen currents. The documentation was fragmentary, but these small details, repeated across incidents, magnified the mystery. The Atlantic had become a zone where the known rules of navigation were stretched, sometimes beyond recognition. Pilots, even those familiar with the Gulf Stream and trade winds, found the area disorienting. The Atlantic's currents and atmospheric conditions can create illusions of altitude, motion, and orientation. Yet trained aviators reported sensations of sudden drift, instruments pointing impossibly, compasses spinning without reason. Flight 19 had foreshadowed these anomalies. The DC-3, Star Tiger, and Star Ariel reinforced them, suggesting that the phenomenon was neither random nor purely coincidental. Something about the region seemed to challenge both technology and perception. While official explanations ranged from equipment failure to human error, no conclusive evidence ever emerged. Hurricanes, though common, did not appear to coincide with the timing of these vanishings. Pilots' logs revealed calm skies or minor turbulence, yet aircraft simply ceased to exist. The absence of wreckage became a hallmark of the Bermuda Triangle's aerial mysteries. Unlike conventional aviation disasters, where debris fields indicate mechanical failure or impact, here there was nothing to mark the loss, no floating seats, no wings, no scattered luggage, only silence and speculation. Alternative theories began to emerge almost immediately. Some suggested powerful atmospheric vortices, capable of creating temporary vacuums that could pull aircraft downward. Others proposed magnetic anomalies that might interfere with navigation instruments, causing pilots to become disoriented, unable to correct course before fuel exhaustion. More speculative ideas hinted at time distortions or portals that temporarily removed matter from our dimension, notions that seemed improbable yet compelling in the face of such inexplicable vanishings. The public, fascinated by the unknowable, embraced these tales with a mixture of fear and wonder. The disappearances also highlighted the human tendency to seek patterns amid chaos. Investigators compared these incidents with older maritime vanishings, noticing parallels in location and behavior. Ships lost centuries earlier, compasses spinning unpredictably, lights appearing and disappearing suddenly. These aerial tragedies felt like a continuation of an older narrative. The triangle, it seemed, was not limited to water or weather. It was an area where uncertainty became tangible, a space in which both sea and sky could conspire to confound expectation. Odd details persisted even decades later. Some pilots reported sudden fog banks or cloud tunnels that seemed to stretch for miles, yet dissipated without warning. Others described lights beneath the waves or strange reflections that hinted at something unnatural. While these accounts could be dismissed individually, their recurrence within a concentrated region lent credibility to the idea of an anomaly. Each story became a thread in a tapestry woven from observation, conjecture, and collective memory. The cultural impact of these vanishings was profound. Newspapers, books, and later television documentaries dramatized the disappearances, sometimes embellishing details for effect. Aircraft that vanished mid-flight became shorthand for the triangle itself. Children's adventure stories depicted planes vanishing into fog or cloud tunnels, while serious publications debated the limits of physics and navigation. The Bermuda Triangle evolved from a maritime curiosity into a broader symbol of the unknown, a stage on which ordinary human endeavor could confront inexplicable forces. Through these incidents, a subtle pattern emerges. The combination of human perception, technological reliance, and environmental unpredictability creates a perfect stage for mystery. The DC-3, Star Tiger, and Star Ariel are not merely historical cases, they are narrative milestones, points where the Atlantic asserts its vast, indifferent power. Each disappearance reinforces the sense that the triangle is a place where ordinary rules falter, a zone where caution and skill may not suffice. By the late 1940s, the Bermuda Triangle had earned its reputation as a spectral realm of aviation. The vanishings in midair complemented the earlier maritime mysteries, forming a continuum of enigma that spans water and sky. It was no longer simply a region to avoid. It was a concept, a symbol of human vulnerability, a reminder that even in an age of technology, the unknown persists. Pilots, sailors, writers, and scientists alike found themselves bound to a narrative that was at once real, imagined, and perpetually unfinished. And so, the ghosts of the sky hover still in our collective memory. Aircraft vanish, reports surface, and stories grow, each generation inheriting the awe and unease of those who came before. The Bermuda Triangle, once a nameless stretch of ocean, now extends upward into the atmosphere, claiming air as much as sea. It is a place where history, myth, and speculation converge, a region where the ordinary rules of navigation yield to something far larger, far more enigmatic. The sky itself becomes a silent witness to the enduring mystery. The Atlantic stretches endlessly, a vast expanse of water that seems both eternal and indifferent. From its surface, the ocean can appear serene, reflective, almost glassy, under the sun. Yet beneath that calm, the Atlantic hides depths that have swallowed countless vessels over centuries. For sailors and historians, the waters within the region later termed the Bermuda Triangle have become synonymous not merely with danger, but with disappearance, ships vanishing entirely, leaving behind no wreckage, no explanation, no trace of life. Among these, few are as haunting as the USS Cyclops and the Marine Sulphur Queen. In 1918, the USS Cyclops, a massive Navy cargo ship, set out from Barbados bound for Baltimore. She carried over 300 men and a substantial load of manganese ore, essential for the war effort. The journey was routine by naval standards, a well-charted passage along the Atlantic's edge. Yet somewhere between Barbados and Baltimore, the ship disappeared. No distress signals were sent. No wreckage was found. The Cyclops simply vanished, leaving only empty waters and unanswered questions. It became the largest non-combat loss in U.S. Navy history, and the mystery has persisted for over a century. What makes the Cyclops' disappearance particularly eerie is its completeness. Ships lost to storms often leave debris, broken masts, scattered cargo, floating lifeboats. The Cyclops left none. Investigators combed the Atlantic, searching currents and wreckage fields, yet found nothing. Theories emerged to explain the event, ranging from structural failure caused by heavy cargo to enemy submarine attack to rogue weather phenomena, but none were conclusive. The absence of concrete evidence transformed a straightforward naval loss into legend, feeding the narrative of the Triangle as a zone of vanishing. Decades later, a similar story unfolded with the Marine Sulphur Queen, a tanker carrying molten sulfur along the same treacherous waters. In 1963, she departed from Beaumont, Texas, bound for Norfolk, Virginia, with 39 men aboard. As the vessel moved through the Atlantic, it never reached port. No distress calls were received. When search operations began, aircraft and ships combed thousands of square miles, yet only minor flotsam, unconnected to the ship, was ever recovered. The vessel, the crew, and its precious cargo disappeared entirely. It was a near mirror of the Cyclops incident, echoing the same chilling pattern. Complete erasure, leaving only speculation. These vanishings highlight the immense power of the Atlantic. Between unpredictable currents, sudden storms, and shifting seabeds, the ocean has a capacity to confound even the most cautious navigators. Rogue waves, sometimes reaching heights of 100 feet, can appear without warning, striking with destructive force. Magnetic anomalies, occasionally recorded in the Triangle region, could interfere with navigational instruments, potentially disorienting captains. Even experienced crews could find themselves helpless, their vessels at the mercy of conditions that modern science struggles to fully explain. Odd microstories surround these events, deepening their mystique. Sailors from other ships have reported lights in the distance, floating lanterns that appear in the dead of night, sometimes rising above the water as though suspended in midair. Ghostly shapes have been glimpsed on the horizon, only to vanish as one approaches. These accounts, while anecdotal, recur across decades, lending a spectral quality to the narrative. They suggest a continuity of experience that transcends individual incidents, binding together disappearances across time into a collective mystery. The Cyclops and Marine Sulphur Queen are not isolated cases. Hundreds of ships are estimated to have been lost in this section of the Atlantic, many without a trace. Vessels large and small, from freighters to fishing boats, have simply ceased to exist in mid-voyage. In some cases, entire crews vanished, leaving the ship itself adrift. In others, the vessel disappeared along with everyone aboard. The lack of wreckage distinguishes these events from typical maritime disasters, where storms or collisions generally leave some evidence. Here, the ocean seems to erase all physical traces, as if it were reclaiming both metal and memory. Mainstream explanations attempt to reconcile these vanishings with natural phenomena. The Gulf Stream is particularly strong in this region, capable of carrying debris far from its source and dispersing wreckage beyond recognition. Sudden tropical storms can appear with little warning, producing waves and winds that overwhelm even large ships. Structural failure, often exacerbated by overloading or poor maintenance, may account for some losses. While these explanations are plausible, they rarely satisfy entirely. When hundreds of incidents share the characteristics of complete disappearance, the anomaly demands closer scrutiny. Alternative theories emerge when conventional reasoning reaches its limits. Some suggest that pockets of methane hydrate deposits under the seafloor could erupt, producing gas bubbles that decrease water density and cause vessels to sink rapidly. Others propose underwater vortexes or mysterious energy fields that could destabilize ships or even interfere with navigational electronics. In more speculative circles, the Triangle is imagined as a location where natural laws are subtly altered, a region where matter might be displaced, shifted, or temporarily erased. While these ideas remain unproven, they speak to the human desire to explain the unexplainable. The cultural resonance of these disappearances cannot be understated. The Cyclops has inspired books, documentaries, and theories about supernatural interference or enemy action. The Marine Sulphur Queen has similarly become a case study in maritime enigma. Together, they contribute to the Triangle's identity as a zone where the ocean exerts a mysterious and unyielding influence. Public fascination grows not from statistical data, but from the dramatic tension inherent in ships lost without trace, in men and machinery dissolved into the vast Atlantic. Even decades later, the vanished vessels continue to spark curiosity. Expeditions have attempted to locate wreckage, employing sonar, remote-operated vehicles, and deep-sea mapping, but the results remain inconclusive. Every failure reinforces the perception of the Triangle as a realm of unresolved mystery. The ocean, in its quiet vastness, seems to assert that some knowledge may remain forever beyond reach, leaving humans to speculate on its intentions or properties. Ultimately, these stories of the Cyclops, the Sulphur Queen, and the countless other vessels lost serve as a reminder of human vulnerability and the power of nature. The Atlantic is indifferent, its depths ancient and unknowable. Ships that vanish do so not merely because of storms or errors, but because the ocean can render certainty meaningless, rewriting expectation into uncertainty. It is a theater of unpredictability, where every voyage carries both possibility and peril. The vanishings also remind us that the Bermuda Triangle, while geographically specific, exists equally in imagination. Each incident fuels the narrative, bridging centuries from Columbus's compass troubles to modern commercial shipping. They transform statistics into story, fact into legend, and ordinary passage into adventure, fear, and awe. The Triangle is, in essence, both a place and a concept, a space where the Atlantic's power intersects with human curiosity and imagination. As twilight settles over the waters, the ghosts of these ships linger, unmarked yet remembered. Waves lap the coordinates where crews were last seen. Currents drift over the empty expanses where hulls once sailed. In the silence, one can almost sense the ocean's memory, vast and unfathomable, holding secrets far older than human ambition. The waters that claimed the Cyclops and the Marine Sulphur Queen remain silent witnesses, reminding all who traverse them that some mysteries endure, waiting for answers that may never come. The Atlantic's waters, stretching between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, carry an unpredictable energy. From above, the sea can seem tranquil, glassy, even inviting. Yet beneath the surface, currents twist and swirl with immense force, and the atmosphere above can transform without warning. For centuries, sailors have learned to respect these waters, but the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle vanishings of ships and planes alike have compelled scientists. Historians and theorists alike to ask, are these disappearances simply natural, or is something stranger at work? Mainstream science offers explanations grounded in the ocean's immense complexity. Storms are the most obvious culprit. Tropical cyclones, hurricanes, and sudden squalls sweep through the region, their winds capable of generating waves over 80 feet high. A ship caught off guard, or a small aircraft struggling against sudden turbulence, could easily be overwhelmed. Pilots and captains, even those experienced in the Gulf Stream's currents, can find themselves disoriented, battling forces far beyond human control. Yet storms alone cannot explain the complete absence of wreckage in so many cases. The ocean leaves clues in most disasters, but in the Triangle, those clues often vanish with the victims. Rogue waves offer another compelling explanation. Unlike ordinary waves, these towering walls of water appear suddenly, rising from an otherwise calm sea. Ships that encounter a rogue wave can be capsized or broken apart within seconds, leaving little chance for distress calls. The Atlantic, with its unique convergence of currents and wind patterns, provides ideal conditions for these rare but deadly events. Still, the sheer number of disappearances, coupled with their concentration in a particular region, suggests that other forces may be at work, or that natural explanations, while plausible, are not entirely sufficient. Beneath the waves lies another potential hazard: methane hydrate deposits. Undersea fields of frozen methane, common in the Atlantic seabed, can erupt under certain conditions, releasing massive bubbles that reduce water density. A ship floating above such an eruption could suddenly lose buoyancy, plunging rapidly into the depths. While laboratory experiments and modeling support this scenario, direct evidence linking methane eruptions to any specific triangle disappearance remains elusive. The theory is tantalizing because it combines science with a measure of the unknown, illustrating the ocean's potential for sudden and dramatic danger. Magnetic anomalies further complicate navigation. Compass readings in the Bermuda Triangle have been reported to fluctuate unexpectedly, sometimes by dozens of degrees. While geomagnetic variation is common across the globe, pilots and sailors have described instruments spinning, readings contradicting one another, and navigational systems behaving erratically. For centuries, such anomalies have confounded mariners, contributing to miscalculations and disorientation. Yet scientists argue that magnetic variations alone cannot account for the complete vanishings of vessels and crews, suggesting that natural causes may only partially explain the phenomenon. Odd micro-stories hint at additional, less tangible elements. Sailors have recounted waves appearing to rise in unusual formations, clouds forming tunnel-like shapes that seemed almost solid, and strange lights beneath the water that defy logical explanation. Pilots have described sudden loss of orientation, clocks freezing or accelerating, and instruments reading impossible altitudes. While these reports cannot be independently verified, their recurrence across decades has fueled speculation that the Bermuda Triangle is more than a zone of environmental danger. It may be a place where ordinary rules bend, if only for moments long enough to unsettle the human mind. Some researchers propose that natural explanations mask a deeper mystery. Could the Bermuda Triangle's conditions combine in such a way that reality itself seems to distort? Time discrepancies reported by pilots, the disappearance of entire vessels without a trace, and radar anomalies hint at the possibility that environmental hazards are intertwined with something less comprehensible. In this view, storms, rogue waves, methane eruptions, and magnetic anomalies are not the complete story. They may be symptoms of a larger, hidden force. The triangle becomes a theater where science and speculation intersect, where observable phenomena coexist with the inexplicable. Meanwhile, investigations continue to weigh the evidence. Oceanographers study currents, temperatures, and the unique topography of the seabed. Meteorologists analyze the frequency and intensity of storms. Geologists examine methane hydrate deposits and tectonic activity. Each field offers pieces of the puzzle, but the puzzle remains incomplete. The absence of wreckage, the recurring patterns of disappearances, and the eerie coincidences, multiple vessels lost in the same corridor under calm conditions, resist full explanation. Nature alone explains part of the mystery, but gaps remain. Alternative theories often draw from these gaps, exploring possibilities at the edge of scientific understanding. Some suggest underwater vortexes capable of rapidly transporting vessels into deep trenches. Others speculate about distortions of gravity, electromagnetic interference, or even localized temporal anomalies. While these ideas are controversial and largely unproven, they reflect a persistent human desire to understand and narrativize what otherwise defies comprehension. They elevate the triangle from a dangerous zone to a concept, a place in which natural law may feel subtly mutable. Yet even amid speculation, the Atlantic's power remains undeniable. Currents shift unpredictably, storms appear without warning, and magnetic variation can disorient even experienced navigators. Each disappearance has at least one plausible natural explanation, yet the accumulation of events, the absence of wreckage, and the consistency of mystery across decades encourage wonder. The triangle becomes a reminder that nature is vast, layered, and occasionally beyond human prediction. It is a space where the ordinary hazards of travel intersect with the extraordinary, In the end, the question remains unresolved. Are storms, rogue waves, methane eruptions, and magnetic anomalies enough to explain hundreds of vanishings? Or do they conceal forces yet unrecognized? The Atlantic provides no simple answer. Each theory, scientific or speculative, offers insight, yet none fully reconciles the scope and pattern of the triangle's mysteries. The ocean remains both classroom and enigma, a laboratory for observation and a stage for human imagination. As evening descends, the triangle's waters glow under the fading sun. Waves lap quietly against invisible hazards, while currents twist in secretive paths. The Atlantic's power, relentless and impartial, reminds all who traverse it that even the most meticulous planning cannot remove uncertainty entirely. Natural killers may account for some vanishings, but hidden forces, whether physical, environmental, or something stranger, linger in possibility. In these waters, certainty is an illusion, and every voyage carries a silent reminder of the unknown. The Bermuda Triangle, then, exists in a liminal space between fact and speculation, science and legend. It challenges human understanding while inspiring narratives that bridge centuries. Its mysteries endure not because they are unsolvable, but because they persistently evade the neat boundaries of explanation. The Atlantic continues to guard its secrets, reminding us that in some corners of the world, even knowledge itself is fragile. The air and waters of the Bermuda Triangle have long carried an invisible enigma, forces that seem to meddle with instruments designed to provide certainty. Among the most perplexing phenomena are the compasses that defy reason, spinning and swinging as if governed by an unseen hand. Pilots and sailors alike have reported these erratic readings for centuries, their precision instruments transformed into unreliable guides. In a world where navigation relies on accuracy, such anomalies evoke unease and, in some cases, terror. One micro-story comes from a 1940s naval pilot returning from a routine reconnaissance mission. His compasses had worked perfectly during the flight until he entered the heart of the triangle. Suddenly, the needles spun in rapid, unpredictable patterns, sometimes pointing north, sometimes swinging south, in defiance of both calculation and expectation. The pilot struggled to correct course, double-checking instruments, consulting visual cues, and cross-referencing maps. Yet the readings persisted. Ground control received frantic radio messages describing a sky where directions no longer held meaning. By the time the flight exited the anomalous zone, the instruments stabilized, but the memory of disorientation lingered, hauntingly precise in its intensity. Sailors, too, have reported similar experiences. Vessels navigating the triangle often find compasses wavering, pointing toward conflicting directions. In some cases, ships circle endlessly, their captains unable to determine true heading. Mariners describe the sensation as subtle at first, almost imperceptible, a hint that something is wrong. But over hours, days, or miles of drift, the effect intensifies, leaving crews disoriented and anxious. This phenomenon appears to target no particular class of vessel. Ancient sailing ships, modern freighters, and even technologically advanced vessels experience the same subtle yet disconcerting behavior. Scientists point to a plausible explanation: magnetic declination. The Earth's magnetic field is not uniform. In certain regions, shifts in the magnetosphere can cause compasses to read incorrectly. The Bermuda Triangle sits near a region where such variations are pronounced, meaning navigational tools may provide inaccurate readings without warning. Mariners accustomed to compensating for magnetic declination can find themselves caught unprepared, their corrections insufficient to account for sudden anomalies. This explanation is rational, grounded in geophysics, and supported by decades of observation. Yet, anomalies persist that defy conventional reasoning. Multiple accounts describe compasses swinging wildly, beyond what magnetic declination could account for, and fluctuating in rapid sequences that suggest temporal instability or environmental interference. Pilots report instruments that recover briefly, then erratically shift again, creating a rhythm of disorientation. Some navigators describe the experience as if reality itself is being met in a sky that appears familiar but cannot be trusted, a sea that obeys gravity yet refuses human logic. These moments are fleeting, difficult to measure scientifically, yet leave a strong impression on those who endure them. Odd facts emerge in the historical record. Christopher Columbus, centuries earlier, noted that compasses behaved strangely when he sailed through the region, long before aviation or modern ships existed. Other explorers documented magnetic deviations that confounded their maps and calculations. Even today, modern GPS systems, reliant on satellite data, occasionally report unusual fluctuations when tested against compass readings, suggesting a subtle interplay between geomagnetic anomalies and local atmospheric conditions. Whether coincidence or evidence of a deeper pattern, the repeated reports create a persistent narrative. The triangle interferes with navigation in ways that cannot always be quantified. Alternative theories have grown from these gaps in understanding. Some suggest that massive underwater metallic formations, remnants of volcanic activity, or submerged mountains could generate localized magnetic fields strong enough to affect instruments. Others propose more exotic ideas, that the region hosts pockets of geomagnetic energy capable of temporarily warping perception, or even creating brief disturbances in space-time. While such ideas are speculative, they reflect the human instinct to seek patterns where conventional explanations falter. They also bridge the known and the unknown, linking science with the enduring mystery of vanished vessels and aircraft. In addition to affecting instruments, these anomalies have psychological effects. Sailors and pilots report sudden disorientation, a feeling that directions have lost meaning, and a creeping sense of isolation. Instruments, though mechanical, influence human confidence. When compasses misbehave, the entire cognitive framework of navigation is undermined. For crews at sea or pilots high above the Atlantic, this undermining is not merely frustrating, it can be dangerous, leaving even the most experienced individuals vulnerable to miscalculations, drifting, or loss of situational awareness. Historical records provide a timeline of recurrence. From Columbus to 20th century pilots, from routine cargo ships to military bombers, reports of erratic compasses appear repeatedly in the same triangular corridor. This repetition suggests that the phenomenon is neither rare nor isolated. It is a persistent feature of the region, an environmental constant that interacts unpredictably with human technology and perception. In this sense, the triangle's influence extends beyond maritime or aerial disappearance. It touches the very tools we rely on to find direction. The Bermuda Triangle thus becomes a region of duality. Natural explanations coexist with tantalizing hints of the extraordinary. Magnetic declination, geomagnetic anomalies, and unusual local geology offer plausible reasons for compass irregularities. Yet the consistency and intensity of the reports, combined with disappearances of ships and planes, suggest that these forces may be amplified by something beyond conventional measurement. The triangle is both a site for scientific inquiry and a locus of legend, a place where instruments lie and the known world seems uncertain. Even today, modern pilots and mariners remain cautious. Redundant navigation systems, GPS, and satellite data provide extraordinary accuracy. Yet experienced crews still approach the triangle with heightened vigilance. Compasses, though largely supplanted by digital instruments, are maintained precisely because they provide a backup when anomalies arise. Their continued use acknowledges a historical truth. This is a region where the rules can shift, where even simple tools may deceive, and where human observation is both vital and fallible. Ultimately, the story of the compass that lied is not merely a story of errant instruments. It is a story of human vulnerability, perception, and the limits of technology in the face of the unknown. It bridges centuries, linking explorers, sailors, and pilots in a continuum of experience. It serves as a reminder that the Bermuda Triangle is more than coordinates on a map. It is a place where uncertainty manifests physically, mentally, and even metaphysically, shaping both the journeys of those who traverse it and the legends that endure. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting a fiery glow across the Atlantic, compasses settle once again, needles pointing north as if nothing had occurred. Yet the memory of their rebellion lingers, an echo of a moment when navigation failed, instruments lied, and human certainty faltered. The Bermuda Triangle, in this way, continues to challenge understanding, inviting both inquiry and imagination, reminding all who traverse its waters and skies that some truths remain just out of reach. The Atlantic Ocean stretches vast and indifferent, its currents shifting like invisible rivers beneath the surface, its winds shaping waves with relentless precision. Within the region known as the Bermuda Triangle, these forces interact in ways both subtle and dramatic. Ships and aircraft that vanish here often confront a combination of environmental hazards, each understood individually by science, yet collectively producing scenarios that challenge prediction and comprehension. The science of disappearance begins with climatology, oceanography, and navigation, disciplines that offer insight without necessarily answering every question. Climatology provides the first layer of understanding. The Bermuda Triangle lies within a zone prone to tropical storms and hurricanes, particularly during the Atlantic hurricane season. These storms form when warm ocean waters fuel the rapid ascent of air, generating winds that can exceed 150 miles per hour. Hurricanes rarely strike without warning, yet localized squalls, smaller, more sudden disturbances can appear without much notice. For ships and planes, such storms can mean abrupt turbulence, massive swells, and near impossible navigation. Even experienced captains and pilots, aware of meteorological patterns, may find themselves at the mercy of conditions beyond human control. Yet weather is only part of the equation. Oceanography reveals that the triangle sits atop a labyrinth of currents, most notably the Gulf Stream. This powerful warm water current moves north along the eastern coast of the United States before veering eastward across the Atlantic. Its speed can reach 5 knots in certain sections, carrying objects or wreckage far from their point of origin. A ship caught in such a current can drift hundreds of miles within days, complicating search and rescue efforts and giving the illusion of instantaneous disappearance. For smaller vessels, sudden shifts in current can overwhelm propulsion and stability, especially during storms. Rogue waves add another layer of complexity. Unlike the predictable, rolling swells of the ocean, rogue waves are massive, sudden walls of water, sometimes exceeding 80 feet in height. These waves can appear without warning, striking ships broadside with catastrophic force. Sailors describe moments where the ocean transforms from calm to monstrous in seconds, swallowing decks, cabins, and entire vessels. Oceanographers studying wave formation note that the unique convergence of wind, current, and underwater topography in the Triangle region creates ideal conditions for these phenomena. Rogue waves are rare globally, but in the Bermuda Triangle, conditions for their occurrence may be unusually favorable. The sea itself is not uniform. The ocean floor in this area presents further hazards. Submarine canyons, steep drop-offs, and uneven seabeds can redirect currents and create localized turbulence. Gas hydrate deposits, frozen methane trapped beneath the ocean floor, pose additional risk. When destabilized, these deposits release gas bubbles that reduce water density. A ship floating above such a release could suddenly lose buoyancy, sinking almost vertically. While no wreckage has been conclusively linked to methane eruptions in the Triangle, the phenomenon is documented elsewhere, demonstrating that the ocean can behave in ways contrary to intuition. Navigation science attempts to mitigate these natural hazards. Modern instruments, gyroscopes, GPS, radar, and electronic compasses provide unprecedented accuracy. Yet even these systems are vulnerable in the Triangle. Magnetic anomalies, reported repeatedly by sailors and pilots, can subtly distort instrument readings. In combination with sudden weather changes and treacherous currents, navigators may find themselves making critical errors despite the sophistication of their equipment. Before GPS, when celestial navigation and magnetic compasses were primary tools, these errors were amplified. A miscalculation of a few degrees could carry a vessel miles off course into conditions far more dangerous than anticipated. Historical data shows that disappearances often coincide with the convergence of multiple hazards. The USS Cyclops, for instance, may have faced structural stress exacerbated by heavy cargo, combined with undetected squalls or shifting currents. Flight 19's bombers likely encountered disorienting wind patterns, compass anomalies, and human fatigue, each compounding the other. Individually, storms, rogue waves, or navigational errors are survivable. Together, they create a scenario in which even experienced crews are vulnerable. Science provides the framework to understand these events, yet the cumulative unpredictability preserves an aura of mystery. Odd micro-stories supplement the scientific narrative. Mariners have reported sudden fog banks forming in otherwise clear skies, accompanied by unpredictable gusts and choppy waves. Pilots describe invisible tunnels of clouds through which they emerge disoriented, finding themselves miles off course in a matter of minutes. Instruments, while reliable in controlled conditions, occasionally fluctuate inexplicably in these zones. While some accounts verge on anecdotal, they reflect the human experience of navigating an environment in which natural laws remain. Constant but perceptible patterns feel distorted. Alternative explanations draw on the limits of conventional science. Some researchers propose that local geomagnetic fluctuations might amplify instrument error during storms, creating scenarios where compasses mislead and radar signals reflect incorrectly. Others speculate on underwater topographical features, submerged mountains, trench-like formations that could influence oceanic currents and wave behavior unpredictably. In the most speculative circles, the triangle is considered a locus where natural phenomena intersect with anomalies that challenge understanding, a place where scientific observation and folklore meet. Yet despite its enigmas, the science of disappearance is not helpless. Oceanographers track currents, map seabeds, and model storm patterns with increasing precision. Meteorologists predict hurricanes and squalls with remarkable accuracy. Navigational instruments continually improve, reducing the likelihood of human error. The very fact that most vessels navigate the triangle safely attests to the effectiveness of these measures. Still, the region's history of unexplained vanishings reminds us that nature's power cannot be fully mitigated, and that even the most sophisticated tools can be rendered ineffective under certain conditions. In reflection, the Bermuda Triangle emerges as a zone where natural forces converge in exceptional ways. Its storms, rogue waves, currents, and magnetic anomalies create an environment that is both fascinating and hazardous. Ships and planes that vanish here are not always victims of mystery alone. They are also participants in a complex interplay of physics, geology, and climatology. Science illuminates much of the danger, yet cannot wholly erase the sense of wonder, the inexplicable pattern, the absence of wreckage, the human stories that persist in memory. As twilight descends across the Atlantic, currents flow quietly beneath the surface, and winds whisper through invisible corridors. The scientific lens allows us to see the forces at work, to chart risk and understand causality, but it does not diminish the Atlantic's grandeur or the enduring sense of the unknown. In these waters, human observation meets natural power, and the line between certainty and mystery remains fluid. Ships and planes may disappear, instruments may fail, yet the Atlantic continues, indifferent and infinite, preserving its secrets for those who dare to cross it. Beyond the measurable forces of weather, currents, and magnetic anomalies, the Bermuda Triangle has long inspired speculation that transcends conventional science. Among the most compelling of these theories is the idea that the triangle functions as a portal, a dimensional gateway where time and space behave differently. For centuries, Mariners and aviators have described experiences that defy rational explanation: vessels disappearing without a trace, compasses spinning, and perhaps most intriguingly, the sensation that hours have vanished from the clock. Could these anomalies indicate more than natural hazards? Could the Bermuda Triangle be a doorway to realms unknown? One of the earliest proponents of this theory suggested that certain areas of the ocean, like the Triangle, contain naturally occurring vortexes, concentrated energy fields that distort the fabric of space-time. According to these ideas, a ship or plane might enter a vortex and emerge far away, or at a different time than would be expected. Witnesses often describe the transition as sudden and surreal: a clouded sky, a sudden stillness in the water, a momentary sense of weightlessness, followed by an abrupt re-entry into familiar conditions. These accounts, though anecdotal, are consistent across decades, hinting at an underlying pattern that is difficult to ignore. A striking micro-story comes from the pilot Bruce Gurnon in 1970. While flying a routine training mission, Gurnon reported encountering a time tunnel, a spiraling cloud formation that seemed to encircle his aircraft. Instruments faltered. Altimeters and chronometers behaved erratically. When he emerged, he had traveled much farther than the flight's duration suggested, effectively gaining time he had not experienced. Whether a trick of perception, a rare meteorological anomaly, or evidence of a more extraordinary phenomenon, Gurnon's account has been cited repeatedly in discussions of temporal anomalies associated with the Triangle. Strange cloud formations are frequently noted in these reports. Sailors have observed circular or funnel-shaped clouds hovering above calm seas, as if drawn to invisible points beneath the surface. Pilots describe flying into thick, tunnel-like formations, only to find themselves emerging into clear skies miles from their expected position. These clouds often appear without warning and dissipate just as suddenly, leaving no meteorological trace. The phenomenon has led some to speculate that the clouds mark the presence of natural vortices, transient windows into alternate spaces or dimensions. Time distortion is another recurring motif. Crew members have described moments when clocks stop, radios record nothing, and instruments reset as if a temporal reset has occurred. Some report experiencing hours that never passed, or finding themselves displaced by vast distances without corresponding travel time. While skeptics attribute such experiences to disorientation, fatigue, or equipment malfunction, the consistency of reports across multiple independent incidents suggests the possibility of a pattern beyond mere coincidence. Could these anomalies hint at a subtle warping of time itself in localized regions of the Atlantic? Alternative theories often merge natural and speculative explanations. Some scientists propose that gravitational anomalies caused by undersea formations or unique density patterns might distort time and space ever so slightly, enough to affect human perception and instruments. Others suggest electromagnetic fields could interact with consciousness, producing experiences that feel like temporal shifts. Even the idea of a dimensional gateway enters mainstream discussion, not as proof, but as a conceptual framework to explore patterns that conventional physics struggles to encompass. In this sense, the Bermuda Triangle becomes a laboratory for imagination as much as observation. Historical parallels strengthen the allure of this theory. Ancient mariners often spoke of lost hours or phantom seas, where time seemed to stretch or contract inexplicably. Legends of whirlpools and maelstroms, though rarely accurate in a literal sense, echo modern accounts of disappearing ships and planes. Folklore, myth, and historical narrative converge, suggesting that humanity has long perceived certain waters as liminal spaces, where ordinary rules do not always apply. The triangle in this continuum becomes a focal point where mystery has crystallized in a specific geographic location. Skeptics caution that while vortex theories are fascinating, evidence remains anecdotal. Meteorologists argue that sudden shifts in air density, wind shear, and optical illusions could create the perception of spiraling clouds or tunnels. Oceanographers note that currents, fog, and shifting light can mislead both sailors and pilots, producing sensations of displacement. Yet, even within these scientific frameworks, the recurring theme of time irregularities persists, tantalizing those who study the triangle with the possibility that something extraordinary is at play. The cultural impact of these theories is profound. Films, books, and documentaries have depicted the Bermuda Triangle as a region where reality itself is mutable, a place of invisible doors and disappearing travelers. The narrative taps into a deep human fascination with the unknown, the idea that the universe may hold pockets where the rules bend, where time, space, and matter do not conform to expectation. For the pilots, sailors, and passengers who report unusual experiences, the stories are deeply personal. For observers and enthusiasts, they become evidence in a collective tapestry of wonder. In the end, whether the portals and vortexes of the Bermuda Triangle are real or metaphorical, they highlight the intersection of observation and imagination. Science attempts to measure and explain, noting currents, clouds, and magnetic fluctuations. Yet the human experience narratives of lost time, disoriented instruments, and vanished vessels suggest that the triangle functions as more than a set of coordinates. It is a space where natural phenomena and mystery coexist, where rational explanation meets speculation, and where every journey invites both discovery and uncertainty. As twilight settles across the triangle, clouds twist above the Atlantic, shadows ripple across waves, and currents flow unseen beneath. In these waters, compasses may spin, instruments may falter, and perception may stretch in ways we barely comprehend. Ships and planes might vanish, time may bend, and yet life persists, weaving ordinary journeys with extraordinary possibilities. The Bermuda Triangle remains a liminal space, a reminder that the ocean's vastness can conceal both measurable danger and the extraordinary, leaving humanity to navigate not only waters and skies, but the thin line between science and wonder. The sky over the Atlantic is a canvas of infinite possibility, stretching from horizon to horizon. Yet within the Bermuda Triangle, it has long become a stage for phenomena that defy ordinary understanding. Among the most compelling stories is that of temporal dislocation moments when time itself seems to bend, fold, or vanish entirely. For those who have lived through it, such experiences are as vivid and tangible as the sunlit waves below, leaving them disoriented, haunted, and often awestruck. Few cases capture this strange intersection of perception and reality as vividly as the 1970 flight of Bruce Gernon. Gernon, a private pilot on a routine training mission, had taken to the skies in a small twin-engine aircraft, following standard procedures along a well-mapped route. The flight began under ordinary conditions: clear skies, a gentle breeze, and instruments functioning flawlessly. Yet, as he approached the central corridor of the Bermuda Triangle, something extraordinary occurred. A low-hanging cloud formation appeared on the horizon, shaped not like a random atmospheric pattern, but as a tunnel, spiraling in a way that seemed almost deliberate. Its presence was unnerving in its precision, as though the sky itself had drawn a passageway through which he was about to travel. As Gernon entered the tunnel, instruments began to behave erratically. Altimeters fluctuated, radio frequencies crackled with interference, and chronometers recorded time inconsistently. He later described the sensation as being simultaneously suspended and propelled, moving faster than the plane's actual speed, while feeling weightless within the spiral. Outside the cockpit, light refracted oddly, clouds bending in unfamiliar ways, shadows stretching and compressing, leaving him disoriented, despite every effort to maintain focus. It was as if the laws of physics were bending, allowing him to traverse a space that was partially outside ordinary reality. Minutes or hours later, Gernon emerged from the cloud tunnel over clear skies, far ahead of where his route should have positioned him. The discrepancy between actual flight time and expected position was significant, raising questions about whether he had experienced not just spatial displacement, but temporal acceleration. Flight logs, corroborated by air traffic records, confirmed his early arrival, yet there was no record of him taking a shorter route, flying at unusual speeds, or receiving any assistance. The flight had occurred exactly as he remembered, yet in another sense, time itself seemed to have been warped around his passage. Gurnon's story is not isolated. Pilots and sailors have reported similar experiences across decades. Aircraft lose track of time, reappear in locations unaccounted for by flight hours, or note clocks that stop, freeze, or accelerate without explanation. Ships report similar phenomena, navigational logs indicating hours of travel that seem to vanish as if the vessel has crossed a temporal shortcut through the sea. These experiences, though often dismissed as fatigue, instrument error, or human misperception, follow a recurring pattern, suggesting a phenomenon that is neither random nor entirely natural. The scientific community approaches such accounts with caution. Psychologists point to the mind's susceptibility to disorientation under high stress or unfamiliar conditions, while meteorologists suggest rare optical illusions or sudden wind shifts could create the perception of accelerated travel. Electromagnetic anomalies have been proposed as potential disruptors of electronic instruments, producing inconsistent readings. Yet no single explanation accounts for the precision and consistency of reports like Gurnon's, nor for the many independent cases recorded over decades. In this light, science acknowledges what is measurable: the instruments, the currents, the clouds, while remaining puzzled by the experiences of those who have traversed them. Alternative theories, meanwhile, offer more speculative frameworks. Could the Bermuda Triangle harbor naturally occurring temporal vortices, pockets where space-time is locally distorted? Some physicists entertain the possibility that gravitational anomalies, combined with electromagnetic fields and unique atmospheric conditions, could create microregions in which time flows differently from the surrounding environment. While unproven, such ideas offer a conceptual lens through which Gurnon's experience, and others like it, might be understood as an intersection of natural phenomena and extraordinary effects. The triangle becomes, in this framework, a bridge between reality as humans perceive it and realms that stretch the imagination. Odd micro-stories embellish this narrative. Pilots have reported flying into thick clouds, only to emerge in skies of contrasting color or illumination. Minutes of subjective time diverging from the clock by tens of minutes. Mariners recount fog banks that seem to move independently of wind, carrying ships forward with an invisible current while hours pass unrecorded. These stories, while anecdotal, share structural similarities: the sudden onset, the sensation of altered time, and the eventual return to normal conditions, often leaving survivors unsure whether the experience was real or imagined. The repetition of these motifs strengthens the impression that the triangle's skies and seas possess an unusual, almost deliberate, capacity to bend temporal experience. In considering these reports, one begins to understand why the Bermuda Triangle has been imagined as a portal, a corridor, a threshold to an unseen dimension. The stories of time displacement, like Gurnon's, resonate because they challenge fundamental assumptions: that time is linear, that distances correlate with duration, and that human perception reliably matches the passage of hours. When these assumptions are violated, the human mind struggles to reconcile memory, measurement, and reality. The triangle, in this sense, is not merely a region of physical peril, but a psychological and metaphysical puzzle, inviting speculation as much as observation. The broader implications are profound. If such distortions are real, they suggest that localized anomalies can influence the very flow of time and space, a concept previously relegated to theoretical physics or science fiction. Navigational experience becomes unreliable, risk assessment becomes probabilistic, and human expectation must contend with forces beyond empirical measurement. For those who traverse these waters or skies, the ordinary rules of travel are suspended, and every decision carries uncertainty, not just of direction, but of duration itself. Yet, even amid mystery, a sense of wonder persists. Gurnon's flight, like countless other accounts, illuminates the thin line between the measurable and the unknown. It reminds us that the Bermuda Triangle is both an arena for scientific study and a locus of human imagination, where environmental anomalies, instrument behavior, and perception converge into experiences that feel at once real and impossible. The Triangle's legacy is not solely that of vanished ships or planes, but of moments in which the ordinary world seems to fold upon itself, revealing glimpses of forces we cannot fully understand. As the sun sets over the Atlantic, the waters ripple with the silent passage of currents, while clouds twist in patterns that defy easy explanation. Aircraft trace invisible paths through the sky, vessels glide along unseen currents, and yet, occasionally, time itself bends. In these moments, travelers become time travelers, witnesses to a phenomenon that bridges the tangible and the extraordinary. The Bermuda Triangle continues to challenge our understanding, reminding us that the universe is layered, mysterious, and far larger than our instruments, theories, or expectations can fully capture. The Atlantic skies above the Bermuda Triangle have long been a stage for the unexplained, but beneath the waves lies an equally enigmatic world. Over decades, witnesses both civilian and military have reported sightings of strange, glowing craft diving into the ocean, leaving ripples of light that vanish as suddenly as they appeared. Radar operators detect objects moving at speeds impossible for conventional aircraft, plunging from sky to sea with unnerving precision. These reports, recurring and often corroborated, hint at the possibility that the Triangle is not only a corridor of temporal and spatial anomalies, but also a locus for unexplained, aerial, and subaquatic activity. During the Cold War, naval patrols became prime sources of UFO and USO unidentified submerged object observations. Submarine crews reported encounters with fast-moving lights beneath the water's surface, accelerating and stopping in ways that defied conventional physics. One officer described a glowing sphere descending from the surface at incredible speed, vanishing into the abyss, only to reappear near the same location minutes later. Radar screens, trained to detect conventional vessels, often showed blips that moved with impossible agility, disappearing into the ocean or air with no trace. These accounts, often classified at the time, have since become part of the Bermuda Triangle narrative, reinforcing the region's reputation as a crossing point for unexplained phenomena. Odd micro-stories abound. In 1963, a commercial pilot reported a bright object hovering over the water before suddenly plunging straight down. Seconds later, the ocean surface erupted with a column of water, as if the object had entered the sea and displaced thousands of gallons in an instant. Divers sent to investigate found nothing, yet radar logs confirmed the unusual movement. Such incidents, while rare, suggest a pattern: objects capable of interacting with both air and water, moving with speed and intelligence that challenge our understanding of technology and natural physics. Speculation about extraterrestrial involvement naturally arises from these accounts. Could these luminous objects be visitors from beyond Earth, using the Triangle as a covert entry point or staging area? The repeated appearance of high-speed, intelligent-seeming craft, some capable of diving into the ocean, others hovering or accelerating, abruptly suggests behavior unlike any known human technology of the period. Military researchers and civilian enthusiasts alike have considered whether the Triangle's unusual geomagnetic properties could facilitate travel or concealment for these craft, making the region uniquely suited for operations invisible to conventional observation. Another layer of mystery lies in the interaction between these objects and human instruments. Pilots have reported sudden failures of radios, compasses, and radar when near luminous craft, a phenomenon reminiscent of other triangle anomalies. Ships navigating the area have recorded electronic disturbances coinciding with sightings, including fluctuations in magnetic readings and sudden sonar anomalies. In some cases, these disturbances precede disappearances, suggesting a correlation between unknown vehicles and vanishing vessels. While correlation does not prove causation, the repeated conjunction of technological failure and unexplained sightings invites further inquiry. Alternative interpretations consider that these sightings might involve advanced, possibly secretive human technology. During the mid-20th century, military programs experimented with high-speed, submersible craft capable of both underwater and aerial operation. While some sightings could plausibly be misidentified tests, the consistency and global scope of similar reports make it unlikely that all incidents can be attributed to terrestrial craft. Glowing spheres, sudden submersions, and objects appearing at impossible speeds suggest that a portion of the phenomena may exceed known human engineering. Cultural narratives also play a role. The Bermuda Triangle's fame as a site of disappearances attracts attention from pilots, mariners, and civilians, increasing the likelihood of unusual reports. Stories circulate, reinforcing a collective expectation that strange craft might appear, shaping perception and memory. Yet even when accounting for human psychology, the sheer number and consistency of USO sightings, including military documentation, hint at a phenomenon that transcends storytelling alone. Some theorists suggest a connection between the triangle's underwater topography and these sightings. Deep trenches, underwater caverns, and magnetic anomalies could create natural conduits or highways for craft, whether terrestrial, extraterrestrial, or otherwise, that operate both in water and air. The region has vast and largely unexplored depths offer an environment in which unknown technology might remain undetected for decades, surfacing only intermittently. Such speculation blurs the boundary between science and mystery, creating a narrative in which the ocean itself becomes a hidden runway or staging area. The notion of USOs intersects with other Bermuda Triangle phenomena, including time distortion, compass anomalies, and sudden storms. Witnesses frequently report that sightings coincide with disorienting environmental effects, suggesting either interaction with the local magnetic field or manipulation of natural forces by unknown entities. The repeated observation of these phenomena creates an eerie synergy: unusual craft, temporal anomalies, and navigational disruption occurring in the same corridor of sea and sky. Each unexplained event reinforces the sense that the triangle is more than geography. It is a locus where multiple mysteries converge. For those who study the Bermuda Triangle, the presence of USOs extends the mystery into a multi-dimensional space. Objects that can transition seamlessly between air and water, move at incredible speeds, and seemingly manipulate local conditions hint at intelligence, purpose, or at least extraordinary technological capability. Whether these are terrestrial experiments, extraterrestrial vehicles, or phenomena as yet unexplained, the implications are profound. The triangle could function not merely as a site of disappearance, but as a gateway where human understanding meets forces beyond conventional comprehension. As night falls over the Atlantic, the surface of the water glimmers with the reflection of stars, waves lapping against invisible depths. Somewhere below, or perhaps above, lights move with a precision and purpose that elude instruments and human observation alike. Radar blips fade, compasses swing, and stories persist, echoing across decades. The ocean conceals, the sky misleads, and the Bermuda Triangle remains a theater for phenomena that challenge not only our science, but our imagination. Ships vanish, planes disappear, and luminous shapes slip between realms, leaving humanity to ponder a simple, haunting question: what truly moves beneath these waters, and who or what watches from beyond? Beneath the turquoise waters of the Bahamas, where sunlight pierces the ocean in golden shafts and waves ripple gently across coral reefs, some claim remnants of a world lost to history. The Bimini Road, a series of flat, rectangular stone formations lying just offshore, appears as an unnatural pathway stretching across the sandy seabed. To the casual observer, it could be nothing more than natural limestone formations shaped by millennia of erosion. Yet for those who look deeper, the road evokes images of Plato's fabled Atlantis, a civilization of advanced knowledge, power, and mystery, swallowed by the sea in a cataclysmic event that has echoed through myth and speculation for centuries. Plato's account of Atlantis, written over 2,000 years ago, describes an island kingdom larger than Libya and Asia combined, situated beyond the Pillars of Hercules. The story portrays a society possessing remarkable engineering skills, monumental architecture, and a mastery of the sea. According to the dialogues, Atlantis succumbed to hubris, provoking the wrath of the gods, and ultimately disappeared beneath the waves in a single night of violent earthquakes and flooding. While historians debate whether Atlantis was purely allegorical, the enduring fascination with the tale has led explorers and researchers to search for any trace of this lost civilization, particularly in regions like the Caribbean and the Bermuda Triangle. The Bahamas, with its shallow waters and peculiar underwater topography, has long been a focus of these investigations. Divers examining the Bimini Road have noted that the stones are unusually flat, arranged in linear patterns, and often intersect at near-perfect angles. Some formations appear to extend beneath sand layers, suggesting they might be the remnants of a once continuous structure. Archaeologists and geologists debate their origin. Natural cementation of beach rock could explain the formations, yet the precision and orientation of some segments defy simple erosion models. Could these stones be part of a roadway, a harbor, or a ceremonial complex left by a civilization long submerged? Other underwater sites in the Caribbean add to the intrigue. Submerged ruins off the coast of Cuba, including stone walls and terraces, hint at human engineering predating known settlements. Offshore Puerto Rico and the Florida Straits, sonar surveys have detected geometric patterns and anomalies on the seabed, raising the possibility that fragments of ancient structures survive in hidden corners of the Atlantic. While mainstream science often interprets these formations as natural phenomena, the recurrence of linearity, angles, and alignment with celestial markers fuels speculation that some sites were deliberately constructed. Odd microstories enhance the mystery. Local fishermen tell of encountering areas where compasses spin wildly near submerged stone formations. Divers occasionally report hearing sounds that cannot be explained, low hums, vibrations in the water, as if the sea itself remembers a presence long gone. In some cases, sonar equipment has picked up voids beneath stone layers, suggesting chambers or tunnels concealed beneath centuries of sediment. Whether these are remnants of buildings, natural caves, or nothing more than optical illusions, they feed the imagination, linking modern exploration to ancient myth. The notion of Atlantis beneath the waves connects naturally to the Bermuda Triangle. If a civilization once thrived in these waters and perished due to sudden inundation, the Triangle's reputation for disappearances could be more than coincidence. Ancient seismic activity, shifting tectonic plates, and massive tsunamis could have reshaped the region, submerging cities and leaving behind topographical anomalies that confound modern navigation. In this view, the Triangle is not just a zone of danger. It is a landscape haunted by history, where human and geological memory converge beneath the waves. Alternative theories stretch further into speculation. Some researchers propose that remnants of advanced technology lost energy systems, navigational devices, or maritime innovations could be buried within these ruins, influencing currents, electromagnetic fields, or other environmental factors in ways we do not yet understand. Could these hidden artifacts explain unusual instrument readings, disorienting compasses, or localized weather phenomena? While evidence remains speculative, the possibility that human ingenuity has left subtle imprints on nature resonates with reports of disappearances and anomalies in the triangle. Cultural echoes also contribute to the fascination. Indigenous Caribbean legends speak of sunken cities, cities that once flourished under the sea, and islands that were swallowed whole by storms and earthquakes. In oral traditions, these tales are imbued with warnings: respect the sea or face obliteration. Even if these stories are symbolic, they mirror Plato's narrative and reinforce the sense that the triangle and the surrounding waters may be more than an ordinary oceanic region. Myths, memory, and physical evidence converge, creating a landscape in which exploration, imagination, and caution intertwine. The Bimini Road itself continues to inspire debate. Some geologists insist it is a naturally fractured beach rock formation, shaped by currents and erosion over millennia. Others argue that the stone's alignment, flatness, and layering suggest construction by intelligent beings. Radiocarbon dating of nearby deposits indicates significant antiquity, yet exact dating of the stones themselves remains elusive. As divers descend to examine the formations, sediment shifts, visibility changes, and currents play tricks on perception, leaving each expedition with more questions than answers. The philosophical implications are equally compelling. If Atlantis or a similar civilization once existed in this region, it challenges assumptions about the development of human society, technology, and maritime capability. It suggests that knowledge may have been lost, leaving us to rediscover lessons already mastered millennia ago. The ruins, whether natural or engineered, act as a reminder that history is layered, that the past is not always linear, and that the ocean holds memory as deeply as the earth holds fossilized bones. As sunlight fades into the cerulean depths, the sea preserves its secrets, and the Bimini Road remains half hidden beneath the shifting sands. Whether natural or human-made, these stones connect the modern observer to something older, something submerged not only in water, but in time itself. Atlantis beneath the waves embodies the interplay of myth, history, and speculation, reminding us that the Bermuda Triangle is as much a repository of imagination as it is a geographical location. It is a place where vanished civilizations, vanished vessels, and vanished hours coexist, leaving only hints and fragments for those willing to explore, to question, and to wonder. In these waters, the past lingers just beneath the surface. Each dive, each sonar scan, each careful observation offers a glimpse into what might have been, a city of stone and ingenuity, swallowed by the sea, and yet still echoing through legend, anomaly, and human curiosity. The triangle, in this context, is not merely a hazard to navigation. It is a testament to the persistence of memory, mystery, and the ocean's enduring capacity to conceal worlds that once were. Off the coast of North Bimini in the Bahamas lies a formation that has captured the attention of divers, archaeologists, and dreamers alike. The Bimini Road, a series of flat, rectangular limestone blocks stretching in a near-linear pattern beneath the shallow waters, presents an enigma. Is it a naturally occurring geological phenomenon, or the remnants of an ancient civilization swallowed by the sea? For those who descend into the warm, crystalline waters, the sight is immediate and haunting: a pathway of stone, aligned with geometric precision, lying silently on the sandy seabed, bearing witness to mysteries lost to time. When divers first explored the formation in the 1960s, they were struck by the sheer uniformity of the stones. Each block appeared to be cut and shaped, arranged with apparent intention. Some formations interlocked in ways reminiscent of masonry, with edges meeting at nearly right angles. Photographs and underwater surveys reveal straight lines stretching for hundreds of meters, punctuated by patterns that some interpret as terraces or steps. To the casual observer, the arrangement might seem accidental, the result of natural erosion or tidal forces. Yet to others, it evokes a deliberate construction, a roadway, or even a ceremonial platform for a people now lost to history. Theories of natural formation cite the beach rock hypothesis. Over millennia, layers of sand and coral cement together, fracture under stress, and settle into patterns that can appear geometric. Erosion, shifting tides, and sediment accumulation contribute to the illusion of deliberate alignment. Geologists point out that similar formations exist elsewhere, shaped solely by the forces of nature. However, even among scientists, debate persists. The seeming regularity and scale of the Bimini Road challenges simple explanations, leaving space for speculation about human involvement. Odd micro-stories from divers add intrigue. Local guides report sensations of unease when exploring the formation, a subtle disorientation, a feeling of being watched, or an inexplicable chill despite the sun-warmed waters. Some divers recount unusual sonar readings, voids beneath the stone slabs, cavities that could suggest tunnels or chambers, though explorations often yield inconclusive results. Occasional sightings of strange fish or luminescent plankton swirls around the stones add to the atmosphere, as if the ocean itself guards the secret of what lies beneath. Alternative theories link the Bimini Road directly to Atlantis. Supporters point to Plato's descriptions of a sunken civilization with sophisticated construction techniques, suggesting that the Bahamian stones could be remnants of streets, walls, or piers. If true, the Bimini Road would be one of the few tangible connections to a lost human civilization, predating recorded history in ways that challenge conventional archaeology. Some researchers propose that cataclysmic flooding or seismic activity submerged coastal settlements, leaving only fragments exposed beneath shifting sands and tides. The notion that the ocean can preserve engineered structures while erasing their creators fuels a romantic, haunting vision of a civilization lost not to time alone, but to water itself. Historical accounts and indigenous folklore deepen the mystery. Caribbean myths describe sunken cities and islands consumed by the sea, often as a warning or as a remembrance of past hubris. These oral traditions, though symbolic, resonate with the concept of Atlantis, creating a bridge between legend and the physical formation observed at Bimini. The convergence of myth, geology, and exploration reinforces the perception that the Bimini Road is more than a mere curiosity. It is a nexus of human imagination, memory, and the unknown. Technological observations add another layer of intrigue. Sonar mapping and underwater imaging reveal straight edges and rectangular forms that, to some, suggest intentional shaping, while sediment shifts and natural fracturing explain some irregularities. The sheer scale and continuity of the formation leave room for speculation. Could ancient humans have achieved such precision with rudimentary tools? Or might the stones mark a site of ceremonial or navigational significance, perhaps aligned with celestial markers as seen in other prehistoric constructions around the world? These questions remain unanswered, lingering like the echoes of footsteps over a stone road now claimed by the sea. The Bimini Road also interacts with the Bermuda Triangle narrative in subtle ways. Some pilots and mariners report navigational anomalies when passing near Bimini waters. Compasses wobble, radar returns become unreliable, and electronic equipment occasionally behaves unpredictably. While correlation does not imply causation, the recurring theme of mystery in this specific region adds to the enigma, linking natural wonder, human history, and unexplained phenomena in a single geographic locus. Philosophically, the Bimini Road invites reflection on humanity's relationship with the ocean and memory. It challenges the assumption that the past is fully accessible, reminding us that history can be hidden beneath layers of water and sediment. For explorers, the formation is a tangible connection to a vanished world, a world that may have been lost to natural catastrophe, human hubris, or the inexorable march of time. Diving into its depths, one confronts not only the stones themselves, but the broader question of what knowledge, technology, and culture may have disappeared before written records began. As sunlight filters through the shallow waters, illuminating the pale limestone and casting dancing shadows across the sandy floor, the Bimini Road appears simultaneously ordinary and extraordinary. Waves lap gently overhead, obscuring the silence with a rhythmic lull, while currents shift subtly, moving sand and sediments over sections of the formation. It is a landscape of contrasts, solid yet impermanent, visible yet elusive, natural yet possibly engineered. Each dive, each sonar scan, and each careful observation offers a fragment of insight, yet the whole remains tantalizingly out of reach. The Bimini Road is more than a geological curiosity. It is a symbol of mystery and possibility. Whether the stones were placed by humans or shaped by natural forces, they invite wonder and exploration. Divers and researchers alike leave the site with questions rather than answers, aware that beneath the calm waters of Bimini lies a story as deep and unfathomable as the ocean itself. Perhaps it is a road once traveled by human hands, now submerged, preserved in silence. Or perhaps it is a natural marvel, a testament to the ocean's capacity to craft beauty from chaos. In either case, the formation connects us to the enduring allure of the Bermuda Triangle, a region where history, legend, and the unknown converge beneath the waves. Beneath the restless surface of the Atlantic, the seabed of the Bermuda Triangle is far from uniform. Hidden beneath the waves are vast geological formations, mountains of basalt and sediment, and rise like silent sentinels from the ocean floor. These underwater peaks, some stretching hundreds of meters from the seabed, form a dramatic and rugged landscape, largely invisible to casual observers. Yet for navigators, scientists, and researchers, these magnetic mountains are more than topographical features. They may be responsible for some of the region's most perplexing anomalies. Basalt, the volcanic rock that comprises much of these underwater mountains, possesses magnetic properties that can subtly, but significantly, affect compass readings. Mariners have long reported instruments spinning inexplicably, deviating from true north without apparent cause. While magnetic declination and local anomalies account for part of this phenomenon, the immense size and orientation of these basalt formations may intensify the effects, creating localized zones of interference. Some pilots and sailors describe areas where compasses seem to have a mind of their own, and navigation instruments record erratic readings despite clear skies or calm waters. Odd micro-stories reinforce the eerie reputation of these underwater mountains. In one 1960s incident, a research vessel reported being unable to maintain a steady heading while navigating over a series of seamounts. Compasses swung wildly, radio signals fluctuated, and sonar readings produced ghostly echoes from non-existent objects. Crew members described the sensation as being off balance in space, as if the sea floor itself were exerting an invisible force. When the vessel moved away from the magnetic peaks, instruments returned to normal, leaving the crew to wonder whether the mountains themselves were capable of influencing more than just navigation. The scale and arrangement of some formations have led to speculation that they may not be entirely natural. While the basalt itself is volcanic, the linearity, terraces, and peculiar alignments of certain peaks have prompted questions. Could these underwater mountains have been shaped or enhanced by ancient civilizations, perhaps remnants of platforms, fortresses, or energy structures now claimed by the sea? Some researchers suggest that the massive basalt blocks may have been quarried and arranged, forming pathways or even markers aligned with celestial events, much like megalithic sites on land. While controversial, the possibility invites consideration. Could a forgotten civilization have harnessed the natural magnetic properties of these stones for navigation, energy, or ritual purposes? Alternative theories extend the discussion into more speculative realms. Some proponents of the Bermuda Triangle as a dimensional gateway hypothesis suggest that the basalt formations are not merely rocks. but focal points for energy fields, possibly influencing space-time or electromagnetic phenomena. In this view, the magnetic mountains act as natural amplifiers of forces that distort instruments, perception, and even the passage of time. Reports of vanished ships and planes often correlate with areas of particularly dense underwater topography, lending credence to the idea that these formations play an active role in the triangle as mysterious reputation. The influence of magnetic mountains is also intertwined with the region's geological history. Centuries of tectonic activity, volcanic eruptions, and shifts in ocean currents have sculpted the seabed into a labyrinth of peaks, ridges, and trenches. Subduction zones, fault lines, and volcanic intrusions contribute to both physical and electromagnetic variability, creating localized anomalies that can confound navigation. These natural processes, combined with the possibility of human intervention in the distant past, produce a layered landscape where the boundaries between geology, technology, and mystery blur. Cultural and historical narratives further enrich the story. Sailors have long attributed vanishing ships to hidden underwater hazards, whispering of mountains that eat vessels or ghost ridges beneath the waves. These tales, while poetic, echo modern scientific observation. Beneath the triangle, the seabed is not a simple expanse of sand, but a complex environment capable of influencing instruments, ships, and planes in unexpected ways. Even Plato's accounts of Atlantis hint at advanced engineering interacting with the natural environment, suggesting a thematic continuity between myth, observation, and speculation. Odd facts continue to intrigue researchers. Certain basalt formations are known to produce measurable magnetic anomalies detectable from ships and planes. The intensity varies with tide, temperature, and atmospheric conditions, creating a dynamic, unpredictable field. Early surveyors noted that these anomalies often coincided with areas of unusual disappearances, leading some to wonder whether the magnetic mountains could play a direct role in the triangle as enduring mystery. Could these formations, combined with oceanic currents and weather patterns, create conditions in which navigational instruments fail, vessels lose orientation, and natural forces appear malevolent? Even the possibility of engineered structures adds layers of mystery. Could remnants of an ancient, technologically advanced society have been incorporated into these mountains, leaving subtle traces of purpose in the natural landscape? Some theorists suggest that the alignment of certain peaks may correspond to astronomical markers or navigational grids, hinting at knowledge lost to time. Whether these ideas are science, speculation, or imaginative interpretation, they highlight the extraordinary intersection of natural geology and human curiosity that characterizes the Bermuda Triangle. As sunlight penetrates the turquoise waters above, the magnetic mountains lie hidden in shadows, shaping currents, affecting instruments, and exerting silent influence over every passing vessel. The seabed is a rugged, undulating terrain where the ordinary rules of navigation meet the extraordinary properties of geology, leaving sailors and pilots to confront both tangible hazards and intangible mysteries. In the quiet of the ocean depths, these formations stand as both guardians and enigmas, reminding us that the Bermuda Triangle is a layered environment, one where science, speculation, and myth converge beneath the waves. The magnetic mountains under the triangle are more than geological curiosity. They are a lens through which we can view the confluence of nature and mystery. Their presence offers an explanation for some navigational anomalies, while leaving ample space for wonder, speculation, and the possibility of lost knowledge. As vessels sail overhead and divers descend to explore, these underwater peaks silently exert their influence, shaping perception, instruments, and perhaps even the very story of the triangle itself. In this landscape, the ocean is not a passive expanse, but a living, dynamic environment capable of challenging human understanding. The magnetic mountains remain submerged, largely invisible, yet impossible to ignore. They are a reminder that the Bermuda Triangle's mysteries may lie not only in what disappears above the waves, but in what silently endures below, sculpting currents, influencing instruments, and guiding the imagination of every adventurer who dares to traverse its waters. As the shadow of the Cold War stretched across the globe, the waters of the Bermuda Triangle took on a new dimension of intrigue. Beyond the stories of vanished ships and strange skies, a less visible layer of mystery emerged, one shaped by human innovation, secrecy, and the relentless pursuit of military advantage. Submarines prowled the depths, naval vessels conducted clandestine experiments, and a growing web of classified programs wove itself into the Triangle's legacy. These were not tales of myth or ancient civilizations, but of modern humans testing the limits of technology in a region already steeped in legend. Naval activity in the mid-20th century transformed the Triangle into a laboratory of sorts. The United States and its allies deployed submarines, research vessels, and specialized aircraft to map the ocean floor, study currents, and test new sonar systems. Many of these missions involved advanced propulsion technology, underwater sound experiments, and covert monitoring of foreign naval movements. In an area already known for unusual disappearances and instrument anomalies, these activities were often cloaked in secrecy, contributing to a perception that something beyond ordinary navigation occurred beneath the waves. One notable element was the testing of sound-based weapons and detection systems. Submarines emitted sonar pulses at frequencies capable of traveling great distances underwater, probing the depths for hidden objects or enemy craft. These acoustic experiments sometimes produced unexpected effects, including the temporary disruption of marine life, interference with navigation instruments, and unusual echoes on radar and sonar displays. Pilots and sailors reported hearing strange booms or feeling vibrations that seemed to emanate from nowhere, feeding speculation that secretive technology might be responsible for some of the Triangle's most famous disappearances. Odd micro-stories from this era illustrate the eerie intersection of human engineering and mystery. In one 1950s incident, a research submarine operating in the Central Triangle reported an unexplained acoustic anomaly. Crew members described hearing a low, pulsating hum, unlike any machinery on board, as if the ocean itself were resonating with unknown energy. Simultaneously, their compasses spun erratically and radio communications briefly failed. When the vessel surfaced, no other ships or submarines were in the vicinity, and official reports were classified for decades. While skeptics might attribute the events to mechanical failure, the correlation with ongoing naval tests and prior anomaly reports fueled speculation that human and unexplained forces coexisted in the Triangle. The Cold War also brought theories of covert weapons testing. Some researchers suggest that secret experiments with underwater mines, torpedoes, or electromagnetic devices could have contributed to the region's enigmatic reputation. Disappearances, anomalous readings, and unusual environmental effects might, in part, reflect human experimentation rather than purely natural phenomena. While evidence is scarce, the presence of classified operations complicates the task of distinguishing between natural hazards, engineered accidents, and the extraordinary accounts of vanished vessels. Submarines themselves played a unique role in the legend. Their ability to move silently, traverse both deep oceanic trenches and shallow waters, and operate beyond visual observation meant that incidents could occur without witnesses. In combination with the Triangle's magnetic anomalies and unpredictable weather, these operations created conditions in which both human and natural factors might contribute to disappearances. Some theorists even propose that the region has unique magnetic properties were deliberately exploited by militaries seeking to test experimental navigation and propulsion systems under extreme conditions. Alternative speculation extends further into the realm of science fiction. Could some of the mysterious craft reported in the Triangle, both aerial and water, be experimental vehicles designed for stealth or rapid transit, disguised as part of the ocean's natural anomalies? Reports of glowing objects, sudden accelerations, and instrument failures coincide in time and location with naval testing, raising the possibility that at least some sightings were the product of human ingenuity rather than extraterrestrial or supernatural activity. Yet the precise nature of many disappearances remains unexplained, leaving a blurred line between advanced technology and the inexplicable. The secrecy of these operations contributed to a culture of rumor and conspiracy. Families of missing sailors and pilots received sparse or misleading information, fueling speculation about secret programs and unacknowledged accidents. Military reports often remained classified for decades, while journalists and independent researchers pieced together fragments of evidence, sometimes contradictory or incomplete. This opacity allowed legends to flourish, merging real-world technology with pre-existing myths of the Triangle. In effect, human experimentation became both a solution and a complication in the story of the region, providing plausible explanations while deepening the aura of mystery. Historical patterns reinforce the plausibility of human involvement. During the height of submarine and sonar testing, the Triangle experienced periods of heightened disappearances, unexplained instrument malfunctions, and reports of strange phenomena. While correlation is not causation, the timing suggests that clandestine activity could have amplified or even triggered some anomalies. Simultaneously, it is clear that not all incidents can be attributed to human activity. Disappearances predate Cold War operations, and some anomalies occur in areas far from known military tests, underscoring the enduring complexity of the Triangle. The interplay of human and natural forces in the Bermuda Triangle offers a rich field for reflection. It illustrates how advanced technology, secrecy, and ambition can interact with the unpredictability of the ocean to create a stage for mystery. Magnetic mountains, rogue waves, and unusual weather, combined with sonar tests, experimental submarines, and covert weapon trials to produce conditions in which instruments fail, vessels vanish, and perception itself becomes unreliable. In this layered environment, fact and speculation overlap, leaving the observer to wonder where reality ends and legend begins. Odd micro-stories continue to emerge from modern research. Divers have encountered unexplained currents in areas of previous naval testing, while remote sensors record sporadic magnetic fluctuations and anomalous acoustic pulses. Some researchers speculate that these residual effects could persist for decades, affecting both navigation and natural oceanic patterns. Even if rooted in human activity, these phenomena are indistinguishable from the Triangle's older mysteries, demonstrating the complex interaction between technology, geography, and the unknowable. As sunlight filters through waves above a silent ocean, the shadowy depths of the Bermuda Triangle remain largely unexplored. Submarines, past and present, glide through waters shaped by magnetic mountains, strong currents, and hidden trenches. Sound pulses echo through the depths, sometimes reflecting instruments, sometimes producing readings that defy understanding. The sea itself seems to absorb human activity, translating it into subtle, often inexplicable effects, blending reality and legend in a way that no single explanation can fully capture. The story of submarines and secret experiments illuminates the human dimension of the Bermuda Triangle's enduring mystery. While natural forces explain some anomalies, human ambition, ingenuity, and secrecy add layers that remain invisible to casual observation. In a region already famed for its vanishings and unexplained phenomena, the presence of advanced naval operations demonstrates that some mysteries may be the product of both nature and humanity, intertwined beneath the waves. The Triangle, in this light, is not only a zone of disappearances, but also a theater where human ingenuity and the unpredictability of the ocean converge, creating a complex, hypnotic, and ultimately unsolvable puzzle. Beyond the storms, magnetic anomalies, and vanished vessels, the Bermuda Triangle beckons with a deeper, more cosmic mystery. What if the phenomena we observe are not only terrestrial, but connected to forces that stretch far beyond our understanding of Earth. In the vast, shadowed waters of the Triangle, some researchers have speculated that natural wormholes, gravity anomalies, or even concentrations of dark matter could be subtly bending reality, creating conditions in which ships and planes disappear without trace. It is a hypothesis that elevates the Triangle from a zone of navigational danger to a possible intersection between the known world and the hidden mechanics of the universe. The concept of a wormhole, an invisible tunnel connecting distant points in space and time, has long existed in theoretical physics. While wormholes are primarily mathematical constructs in Einstein's equations, some physicists and enthusiasts suggest that natural variations in Earth as crust or oceanic structures could mimic the effects on a small scale. In such a scenario, a plane or vessel entering a localized spatial anomaly might be displaced across distances, or even through time in ways that evade detection. The Bermuda Triangle, with its peculiar topography, magnetic disturbances, and dense history of unexplained disappearances, has been proposed as one of these extraordinary zones. Odd microstories support this line of thought. Pilots like Bruce Gernon in the 1970s reported flying through a strange tunnel of clouds, emerging hundreds of miles from their expected position without any mechanical explanation. Mariners tell of ships vanishing suddenly in clear weather, only for traces of them to appear later in places they could never have reached. While skeptics attribute these incidents to navigational error or oceanic currents, the pattern and consistency of reports over centuries suggests something more enigmatic may be at work. Disruption of conventional space-time in localized pockets of the Triangle. Gravity anomalies add another layer of speculation. Studies of the Earth's crust reveal that variations in density, rock composition, and oceanic trenches can create subtle but measurable deviations in gravitational pull. Over vast underwater formations, such as basaltic mountains or deep oceanic trenches, these anomalies could interfere with navigation, engine performance, or even buoyancy calculations. In extreme cases, it is conceivable that instruments might provide inaccurate readings, pilots could misjudge altitude, and ships could drift without visible cause. While these effects alone cannot account for every disappearance, they suggest that the Bermuda Triangle is a physically complex region shaped by forces both known and hidden. Dark matter, the mysterious substance believed to compose much of the universe's mass, offers a further layer of intrigue. Though invisible and detectable only through gravitational effects, some theorists speculate that localized concentrations beneath the ocean floor could subtly influence instruments, currents, or even the flow of time. While mainstream physics treats this idea as highly speculative, it reflects the ongoing human desire to connect observed anomalies with the broader cosmos. If portions of the Bermuda Triangle interact with cosmic forces we barely understand, it may explain why certain disappearances defy conventional explanation, appearing as though swallowed by some unseen void. Historical accounts reinforce the eerie impression of these black holes of the sea. Sailors from centuries past described strange calms, sudden storms, and inexplicable compass errors. Ships seemed to vanish in perfect visibility, leaving no debris or distress signals. Even when wreckage was found, it often showed no signs of collision or structural failure, as though the vessels had simply moved into a realm beyond ordinary perception. These accounts, repeated over generations, align uncannily with modern theoretical ideas about space-time distortions and gravitational anomalies, suggesting that the Triangle has long been a place where natural law behaves differently, or at least appears to do so. Alternative theories draw connections between these cosmic possibilities and submerged geology. Deep trenches, basalt formations, and magnetic mountains may amplify or channel anomalies, creating pockets where gravity, magnetism, and oceanic currents interact unpredictably. In combination with atmospheric conditions, storms, wind shear, and rapid temperature changes, These zones could produce effects that challenge conventional navigation. In essence, the Bermuda Triangle may act as a natural laboratory for forces that are largely imperceptible under normal conditions, yet catastrophic when combined with human technology. Microstories continue to captivate those who explore the region. In one modern case, a small research vessel experienced sudden instrument failures while passing over a deep trench aligned with known magnetic anomalies. Compasses spun erratically, GPS units lost signal, and sonar returned ghostly images of non-existent objects. When the crew moved just a few miles away, the equipment returned to normal. Such incidents reinforce the notion that some phenomena in the triangle may be localized, intermittent, and beyond conventional explanation qualities, reminiscent of the behavior of black holes or spatial distortions in theoretical physics. Philosophically, the idea of black holes beneath the sea challenges our perception of the ocean as a predictable, measurable environment. It suggests that even in familiar territory waters, charted by centuries of exploration, forces operate at scales and complexities we are only beginning to comprehend. The Bermuda Triangle, in this view, is more than a danger zone or a repository of legend. It is a reminder that Earth itself is a dynamic system intertwined with cosmic forces that may influence events in subtle, profound ways. The allure of these cosmic explanations lies in their capacity to reconcile two truths. The triangle is both tangible and inexplicable. On one hand, instruments, navigation charts, and weather systems offer concrete data. On the other, countless disappearances, untraceable anomalies, and haunting tales persist. By contemplating natural wormholes, gravity distortions, and interactions with dark matter, the mind opens to the possibility that the triangle operates on levels of reality we do not yet fully perceive. It becomes a threshold between human understanding and the unknown, a liminal space where the ordinary rules of navigation, physics, and causality may bend or break entirely. As sunlight fades beneath the waves, the Atlantic waters above these invisible black holes ripple gently, concealing trenches, magnetic peaks, and geological anomalies. Ships sail unknowingly over these features, their instruments at times deceived, their courses subtly altered. The ocean itself, vast and patient, preserves these hidden forces, allowing myths, science, and speculation to intertwine. In this space, the Bermuda Triangle transforms into a theater of cosmic possibility, a place where the limits of human knowledge brush against the vast, unknowable architecture of the universe. In the end, the black holes of the sea invite reflection rather than explanation. They remind us that the ocean is not merely a setting for human endeavor, but a vast, complex system capable of phenomena that challenge understanding. Whether caused by natural geological anomalies, subtle distortions in spacetime, or the elusive influence of dark matter, the Bermuda Triangle remains a site where science meets wonder, where history converges with speculation, and where the boundaries of the known world dissolve into mystery. Here, in these waters, the cosmos and the ocean converge, leaving only questions, awe, and the quiet hum of the deep. Long before compasses spun wildly or ships vanished without a trace, the waters of the Bermuda Triangle were already steeped in story. Indigenous peoples of the Caribbean, the Taino, Lucayan, and other seafaring cultures, spoke of spirits inhabiting the ocean's guardians of the deep, who could guide or punish those who dared traverse their domains. These tales were not mere entertainment. They were warnings, codified knowledge of currents, hidden shoals, and tempestuous weather, wrapped in mythic language. To the first navigators of these waters, the sea was alive, conscious, and capable of both protection and peril. Among these legends, sea serpents were a recurring motif. Descriptions vary. Some creatures are enormous, scaled like dragons, gliding beneath the surface in long, undulating arcs. Others resemble giant eels or serpentine guardians with glowing eyes that pierce the darkness. Mariners reported glimpses of such beings, often in the calm between storms, when the ocean's surface became mirror-like, reflecting the sky in unbroken silver. Sailors swore that these creatures could capsize ships, divert courses, or even consume vessels whole. While scientists dismiss these accounts as exaggeration or misidentified marine life, the consistency of reports across centuries suggests a shared cultural memory, an archetype of the ocean as unseen power. Odd micro-stories illuminate how myth and personal experience intertwine. In the 18th century, a British ship's captain reported that his compass went haywire while a massive shadow, too large to be a whale, passed beneath the hull. Crew members felt a sudden chill and a pressure in the air, as if the sea itself were warning them away. Similar accounts surfaced in the 19th century among Caribbean sailors, describing phosphorescent lights that moved independently of the current, mysterious mists that appeared and vanished within moments, and disembodied voices carried on the wind. These experiences were often recorded as cautionary tales, passed down orally, blending natural observation with supernatural interpretation. The mythology of the Triangle extends beyond monstrous creatures. Many legends describe guardian spirits, sometimes benevolent, sometimes malevolent. These entities are said to inhabit reefs, shoals, and underwater caverns, monitoring human passage. In some stories, sailors who showed respect to the ocean, offering prayers, gestures, or minor sacrifices, were spared, guided through treacherous waters by invisible hands. Those who acted arrogantly or recklessly faced misfortune, often in sudden, inexplicable forms. Storms that rose without warning, compasses spinning in circles, or vessels lost to calm seas. These narratives reflect a worldview in which the ocean itself is a moral force, capable of judgment, memory, and intervention. European explorers arriving centuries later encountered these same waters, absorbing local myths and creating their own. Christopher Columbus, for instance, noted strange lights on the horizon, compass deviations, and an uneasy feeling among his crew as they navigated the Triangle. Such observations, filtered through European interpretive frameworks, transformed into ghost stories, tales of haunted seas, and cautionary accounts for other sailors. By the 19th century, newspapers amplified these stories, turning folklore into legend and integrating indigenous motifs with European imaginings of monsters, spirits, and otherworldly forces. Odd facts continue to emerge from folklore studies. Caribbean oral histories recount ships appearing suddenly where they should not have been, or vessels being surrounded by mists that distorted perception of distance and direction. In some accounts, survivors claim to see spectral figures guiding them to safety, or shadowy creatures slipping beneath the waves in moments of danger. Modern researchers have suggested that these stories may encode real environmental knowledge, phantom shoals, sudden currents, or bioluminescent algae disguised as mythic imagery. In this way, legends become repositories of both caution and knowledge, blending observation with imagination. Alternative interpretations extend myth into symbolic realms. Some theorists argue that the myths of guardian spirits and sea serpents reflect the collective human response to an environment where the usual rules of physics, navigation, and predictability fail. The ocean, in this reading, is a living metaphor for uncertainty, danger, and the unknown. The Bermuda Triangle, a region already associated with disappearances and anomalies, naturally attracted mythic interpretation, transforming natural forces into characters and stories that communicate both fear and reverence. Micro-stories from modern seafarers echo these ancient myths. Fishermen report strange lights under the water, sudden fogs that appear without meteorological cause, and noises resembling voices carried across the waves. In the age of technology, these experiences are often dismissed as equipment malfunction, optical illusion, or environmental anomaly. Yet when viewed in the context of centuries of storytelling, they form a continuum, a shared human recognition that the ocean is not entirely knowable, and that our tools and instruments, no matter how advanced, may never fully capture its mysteries. The mythology of the Bermuda Triangle also touches on death and memory. The ocean is portrayed as a keeper of souls, a place where the boundaries between life and death blur. Disappearances are sometimes explained in legend as offerings to the sea, or as the ocean reclaiming those who have crossed its domain without respect. These stories, while poetic, echo the human need to find meaning in loss, to narrativize tragedy, and to frame the unknown within moral, spiritual, or symbolic dimensions. From a cinematic perspective, the sea as myth provides texture and emotional resonance. Imagine a quiet night over the triangle, the water glassy and black, a phosphorescent shimmer tracing the hull of a passing vessel, and the wind carrying a faint, unidentifiable hum. The imagination fills the void with serpents gliding just beneath, spirits watching from unseen depths, and currents that twist instruments and reality alike. These images are more than storytelling. They are reflections of human engagement with a powerful and largely unknowable environment, where myth and observation coalesce into narrative. Finally, myth serves as a bridge between eras. The indigenous stories, European interpretations, and modern accounts of mysterious disappearances are not separate threads, but a tapestry, connecting human experience across centuries. Each legend, micro-story, or sailor's tale reflects a universal response to the unknown: fear, awe, and a desire to explain what cannot be measured or fully understood. In the Bermuda Triangle, myth is not decoration. It is an intrinsic part of the region's identity, a lens through which natural, technological, and possibly even cosmic phenomena are interpreted. As dawn breaks over the waters, illuminating the calm expanse with soft light, the myths linger. Sea serpents vanish beneath the shimmer, guardian spirits retreat into the depths, and the ocean holds its secrets once more. Yet the stories endure, carried in the memory of those who navigate these waters, whispered among sailors, echoed in literature, and preserved in the shared imagination of humanity. The Bermuda Triangle, through its myths, reminds us that the ocean is more than a physical space. It is a living canvas for the stories we tell about danger, mystery, and the unknown. The ocean is a silent archivist. Every wave, current, and tide carries fragments of history, secrets imprinted in its vast expanse, long before humans began recording events on paper or stone. In the Bermuda Triangle, this memory is particularly profound. Water here is not merely a medium for travel or commerce. It is a vessel that holds the echo of centuries, preserving stories of vanished ships, lost crews, and unexplained phenomena in a vast, almost imperceptible record. Its depths are like a library written in currents, salinity, temperature, and motion, accessible only to those attuned to the ocean's subtle language. Scientists studying oceanography have long observed that water is a dynamic system, capable of storing information in ways that extend beyond immediate observation. Temperature gradients, salinity variations, and chemical signatures can reveal patterns of movement stretching across vast distances and timeframes. In the Bermuda Triangle, these properties intersect in complex ways. The region's currents, including branches of the Gulf Stream, interact with submerged topography, magnetic mountains, trenches, and ridges to create patterns of motion that seem at once predictable and mysteriously irregular. These flows can carry debris, chemical traces, and even subtle energy signatures, creating a memory of human and natural events that lingers long after they occur. Odd micro-stories illuminate the ocean's enduring memory. In one case, marine biologists discovered a cluster of wreckage for a vessel lost decades earlier, perfectly preserved in a deep, low-oxygen trench. The positioning of debris suggested that currents and sediment flows had silently archived the ship's final moments, holding its history in a state almost untouched by decay. Likewise, sonar surveys detect ghostly outlines of older shipwrecks, long forgotten by humanity, but recorded in the water's physical and chemical layers. These discoveries underscore a fundamental truth. The ocean retains traces of the past, storing information in forms that science is only beginning to decode. Human memory and myth converge with the ocean's own record. Indigenous cultures, sailors, and explorers alike describe the Bermuda Triangle as a space where the sea remembers, not just events, but intentions, actions, and transgressions. Myths of guardian spirits, vengeful currents, and protective deities reflect an understanding that water is active, not passive. While modern science explains many phenomena through currents, pressure changes, and salinity gradients, the poetic interpretation that the ocean retains a form of collective memory is an enduring narrative, offering meaning to disappearances and unexplainable events. Alternative theories deepen this convergence of myth and science. Some suggest that the ocean's memory is not only physical but energetic. Electromagnetic fields, influenced by both geological formations and human activity, can persist in localized areas, creating anomalies that affect instruments, perception, and even consciousness. In the Bermuda Triangle, these residual energies might amplify the sensation of mystery, creating environments where compasses spin, radios fail, and planes or ships vanish with minimal trace. In this framework, water acts not merely as a medium, but as a participant in the unfolding drama of the triangle, recording, shaping, and reflecting events across time. The idea of memory in water finds echoes in tragedy as well. Each disappearance, whether a ship, a plane, or a lone sailor, leaves an imprint. Currents carry fragments, signals, and echoes that persist long after the physical object is gone. Survivors' accounts often describe a strange sense of continuity, as if the ocean remembers their passage, reacts to it, or even communicates through environmental cues. Sudden mists, unexpected calms, or anomalous reflections. These subtle interactions reinforce the idea that the triangle is not simply a void, but a living archive, holding both human and natural histories in its currents. Historical examples intertwine with scientific observation. The loss of Flight 19, USS Cyclops, and other vessels may have left both tangible and intangible traces in the triangle. Even when wreckage was never recovered, the water carries chemical markers from fuel, metals, and other materials, while the movement of sediments and thermal layers encodes the dynamics of the disappearance. In essence, each tragedy becomes a thread woven into the ocean's larger narrative, a contribution to the water's long memory that informs patterns, anomalies, and potentially the experiences of future mariners. Micro-stories reinforce the ocean's mnemonic quality. In the 20th century, divers exploring Bimini and nearby reefs reported that certain underwater currents seemed to replay historical events, eddies and vortexes forming in patterns similar to those described in old maritime logs. Though anecdotal, such experiences hint at the ocean's capacity to retain and express history in ways that are perceptible under specific conditions. Whether through subtle environmental cues or dramatic physical phenomena, the water itself seems to preserve stories, echoing past events and sometimes manifesting them to those who venture into its depths. The Bermuda Triangle, viewed through this lens, becomes more than a mystery of vanishing vessels or unexplained phenomena. It is a space where nature, history, and memory intertwine. Currents act as archivists, magnetic anomalies as cataloging tools, and waves as narrative lines that carry human experience through time. The ocean is not a blank canvas, but an active participant, a medium that records, communicates, and preserves events with a fidelity that stretches beyond human lifespans. In this sense, the triangle's enigmatic reputation may stem not only from what disappears, but from what remains, quietly recorded in the water itself. As the sun dips toward the horizon, casting golden light across the calm expanse, the Bermuda Triangle continues to hold its stories. The ocean remembers ships that vanished, storms that formed without warning, and planes that disappeared into nothingness. It preserves traces of human ambition, error, and courage alongside the natural rhythms of tides, currents, and storms. In the stillness of the deep, the water carries both myth and history, memory and mystery, offering a reflection of the past that is tangible yet elusive, measurable yet poetic. Ultimately, the long memory of water reminds us of our place within a vast, interconnected system. Human understanding is fleeting, tools and instruments are limited, and yet the ocean endures as a silent witness. It preserves lessons in both tragedy and wonder, leaving a record for those willing to perceive it, not in words, but in currents, echoes, and subtle shifts. The Bermuda Triangle, in all its myth, mystery, and history, is both a challenge and a revelation, an area where the ocean keeps secrets far older than humanity, offering glimpses into a world that remembers in ways we are only beginning to understand. Even amidst the legends, disappearances, and cosmic speculation, the Bermuda Triangle is not entirely silent. A handful of those who have traversed its waters or skies return to tell tales that defy explanation. Their stories are rare, fragmented, and sometimes dismissed as exaggeration, yet they provide a haunting window into the lived experience of the Triangle. These survivors speak of sudden fogs that appear without warning, instruments that betray the laws of physics, and an unsettling stillness that seems to press down on the soul itself. Each account, though unique, carries the weight of cumulative mystery, reinforcing the idea that the Triangle is not merely a map of vanishing points, but a space with its own character, its own will, and its own voice. One early account comes from a merchant ship captain in the 1950s, navigating the waters between Bermuda and Puerto Rico. As his vessel entered what he later described as the heart of the Triangle, instruments began to fluctuate wildly. The compass needle spun in unpredictable arcs, chronometers lost minutes, and radar readings fluctuated like an echo in a canyon. Most unnerving, however, was the silence and absence of the usual hum of engines, the creak of timbers, and the distant cry of seabirds. The ocean felt almost sentient, aware of its human passengers and patient in its quiet scrutiny. When the vessel finally exited the zone, the crew found that hours had vanished, as though time itself had skipped, leaving them disoriented yet unharmed. Micro-stories like this abound among aviators as well. In the 1960s, a pilot flying a small passenger plane reported encountering an unusual, impenetrable fog that descended in moments. Instruments failed to respond, radio communication was lost, and the sun appeared warped through the haze. Pilots describe a sense of spatial dislocation, as if their aircraft were floating in a dimension parallel to the familiar sky. Moments later, the fog lifted, the instruments returned to normal, and the plane was found to be miles off course. Accounts like this, repeated by others over decades, suggest that the Triangle is a region where reality itself may flex, a place where perception and measurement are unreliable guides. Even professional military personnel have contributed testimony. Bruce Gernon's 1970 flight is a well-known example, yet countless lesser-known pilots have described similar phenomena. Sudden turbulence in calm skies, abrupt changes in altitude without mechanical cause, and electronic failures that defy explanation. Naval crews echo these experiences at sea. One team reported an eerie, almost palpable silence, interrupted only by the distant splash of water. The sonar returned ghostly images that seemed to drift without pattern, and the compass swung in erratic circles. Days later, their ship's log revealed gaps in recorded time, as if the Triangle had borrowed hours and then returned them, altered and unfamiliar. These accounts often share common motifs: the sudden onset of fog or calm, instruments acting independently, eerie silence, and subtle distortions of time and space. Survivors frequently describe a feeling of being observed, as though the water itself watches and responds to human presence. The effect is both psychological and physical, producing a heightened sense of unease, disorientation, and awareness of forces beyond immediate perception. While some scientists attribute these experiences to environmental factors, optical illusions, magnetic anomalies, sudden storms, the consistency of reports suggests that something more profound may be at play. An interaction between human consciousness, technology, and the enigmatic properties of the region. Odd micro-stories continue to surface. One modern yacht crew reported a sudden fog bank rising from the ocean, not predicted by any weather system. The radar displayed ghostly blips, moving independently of wind or current, while instruments repeatedly failed and reset. Crew members later recalled an unexplainable sense of calm, a weightless, timeless sensation that seemed to suspend them within the water and sky simultaneously. Such experiences, though anecdotal, echo centuries of folklore, implying that human perception may encounter the triangle in ways that science struggles to quantify. Time distortions are a recurring element. Several accounts describe short periods, minutes, hours, or sometimes days, during which instruments, watches, and human perception seem to fail or slow. Survivors often cannot reconcile elapsed time with reality. For example, a small fishing vessel reported leaving Miami in the morning and encountering sudden storms in a calm afternoon, only to find their actual position far north of their expected route. Such discrepancies, paired with navigational anomalies, reinforce the idea that the Bermuda Triangle is not merely hazardous, but operates according to patterns that elude conventional measurement. The psychological dimension of survivors' whispers is equally compelling. Many speak of an oppressive stillness or a subtle awareness of being watched, feelings that vanish once the triangle is exited. Some describe visual distortions, horizons bending unnaturally, waves forming geometric patterns, or the ocean appearing unusually dark and dense. These experiences evoke a sense that the triangle is not only a spatial anomaly, but also a perceptual one, shaping the way humans experience time, space, and motion within its boundaries. Alternative interpretations extend into the mystical. Some theorists propose that the triangle may act as a liminal zone, a place where consciousness interacts with the environment in unusual ways. Survivors' reports of missing time, sudden clarity, or distorted perception could suggest subtle energy fields, resonant magnetic anomalies, or unknown physical forces influencing both mind and matter. While unproven, such theories offer a compelling bridge between anecdotal experience and the enduring enigma of the triangle. Historical continuity adds depth to these narratives. The accounts of 20th century sailors and pilots are remarkably consistent with reports from indigenous seafarers and early European explorers. Strange fogs, magnetic deviations, and eerie silences appear in logs, oral traditions, and maritime records dating back centuries. Survivors' whispers, therefore, are not isolated phenomena, but part of a long continuum, connecting human experience across time and reinforcing the sense that the Bermuda Triangle preserves both memory and mystery. In the end, the voices of those who survived the triangle speak softly but insistently. They remind us that beyond theories, instruments, and historical records, the ocean is a lived environment, experienced moment by moment by those who navigate it. The water, wind, and sky interact with human perception in ways that are often subtle, sometimes alarming, and always mysterious. Each survivor adds a verse to the triangle's ongoing story, a narrative that intertwines fear, awe, and the enduring power of the unknown. As the sun sets over calm waters, the whispers fade into the gentle lap of waves against hulls. Yet the stories linger, carried in memory, passed between sailors, recorded in logs, and preserved in both myth and testimony. The Bermuda Triangle, through the experiences of those who escape its clutches, becomes not just a place of vanishing, but a theater of perception, memory, and human vulnerability. It is a space where the ocean remembers, where time can twist, and where those who emerge carry an indelible impression of a world that operates on principles beyond comprehension. The survivors' whispers are a testament to the triangle's enduring enigma. They bridge centuries of myth, science, and human experience, reminding us that while the waters may swallow the unprepared, they also reveal subtle truths to those who endure. In the quiet moments after storms, in the stillness of fog banks, and in the erratic pulse of instruments, the voices of survivors echo across time, carrying a message of awe, respect, and wonder. The Bermuda Triangle, through these human accounts, asserts its presence not only as a site of disappearance, but as a living, conscious, and endlessly mysterious expanse. The Bermuda Triangle exists in a peculiar space where the boundaries between measurable reality and enduring mystery blur. To scientists, the region is no more inherently perilous than other parts of the ocean. Climatologists point to sudden storms, erratic currents, and turbulent weather patterns. Oceanographers highlight methane hydrate eruptions that can reduce water density, causing ships to sink rapidly. Geologists explain magnetic anomalies that mislead compasses and disrupt navigation instruments. Even aerospace engineers note that pilots encountering localized turbulence or wind shear can miscalculate speed and altitude. Each explanation carries weight, and yet none fully captures the persistent pattern of unexplained disappearances and strange phenomena that have haunted the triangle for centuries. Meanwhile, alternative interpretations continue to flourish. Writers, researchers, and enthusiasts have long suggested that the triangle may function as a dimensional gateway, a nexus of temporal irregularities, or a hotspot of extraterrestrial activity. They cite accounts of planes and ships vanishing in minutes, only for traces to resurface under circumstances that defy conventional logic. Some stories speak of lost hours chronometers and wristwatches desynchronized from the flow of time, or of navigators who emerge miles from expected positions without logical explanation. These accounts challenge the scientific insistence on predictability, insisting instead that the Bermuda Triangle operates partially beyond the frameworks we trust. Odd micro-stories illustrate the tension between science and speculation. In one case, a research vessel navigating the Central Triangle reported an electronic failure spanning every instrument on board, including GPS, sonar, and communications. Simultaneously, the water's surface remained eerily calm, lacking any wind or wave activity. When systems returned to function a half-hour later, the vessel's position had shifted several miles, with no record of movement in ocean currents sufficient to account for the displacement. Mariners described the sensation as entering a time bubble or pocket of stillness, a liminal experience where human understanding falters and rational explanations strain to keep pace. From the perspective of climatology and oceanography, many of these anomalies can be partially explained. The triangle sits at the convergence of several major currents, including the warm, fast-moving Gulf Stream, which interacts with smaller oceanic eddies and gyres to create unpredictable water movement. Sudden temperature shifts in these waters can spawn violent microstorms, and the topography of the seabed trenches, ridges, and magnetic rock formations can interfere with navigation systems. Even rogue waves, some rising more than 30 meters, may appear without warning, capable of sinking large vessels. Science provides a framework, a language, and measurable mechanisms, but it cannot fully account for the totality of experiences reported over centuries. Historical context adds depth to this duality. Long before modern instruments existed, indigenous peoples, European explorers, and early sailors recorded phenomena now associated with the triangle. Strange lights on the horizon, sudden tempests, inexplicable compass behavior, and phantom fogs appear repeatedly in logs, oral histories, and mythic accounts. These reports predate our understanding of magnetic anomalies, meteorology, or oceanography. They suggest that the triangle has always presented challenges that exceed human predictive capability, a space where the unknown and the observable coexist uneasily. Alternative theories extend beyond earthbound science. Some suggest that gravitational distortions or even concentrations of dark matter beneath the seabed may subtly influence instruments, navigation, or perception. Others propose connections to hidden dimensions, natural wormholes, or residual energy fields that interact unpredictably with human technology. While highly speculative, such ideas persist because they address the consistent pattern of anomalies, the half-solved, half-myth nature of the triangle that conventional science alone cannot resolve. The narrative of disappearance, distortion, and mystery is sustained not only by unexplained events, but also by the limits of human observation itself. Odd micro-stories continue to challenge rational frameworks. Pilots recount navigating through sudden, localized turbulence, emerging hours ahead of expected position. Sailors describe ghostly lights beneath the waves, vanishing without trace, while radar captures fleeting objects that defy classification. These stories, whether rooted in misperception, environmental factors, or something altogether extraordinary, underscore the uneasy relationship between empirical study and human experience. Science illuminates much of the physical world, but the Bermuda Triangle remains a reminder that observation is bounded by human perspective and instrumentation. Philosophically, the triangle embodies the tension between the known and the unknowable. Science seeks explanation, pattern, and reproducibility. Mystery thrives in ambiguity, anomaly, and the unmeasured. The waters of the triangle become a liminal zone where both coexist. Pilots, sailors, and researchers confront phenomena that oscillate between comprehensible causation and inexplicable occurrence. In this space, rationality and wonder are not opposites, but complementary lenses, each revealing different aspects of the same enigmatic reality. The triangle is at once a laboratory of physical laws and a stage for human imagination. Historical narratives intersect with personal experience, creating a continuum that resists reduction to mere data. The disappearances of Flight 19, the USS Cyclops, and countless smaller vessels exemplify events that can be partially explained, yet remain fundamentally mysterious. Each case sits at the intersection of natural forces, technological limitations, and human perception. The triangle's reputation grows not only from vanishing ships, but also from the story survivors, witnesses, and historians pass forward a cultural accumulation of uncertainty and fascination, reinforcing the region's enigmatic character. Odd facts illustrate this duality in modern research. Studies using satellite imagery and sonar mapping reveal features like underwater mountains, trenches, and magnetic anomalies that influence currents and instruments. Yet, despite precise measurements, the disappearance patterns persist in ways that remain statistically unusual compared to other heavily traveled maritime regions. Technology allows observation, but does not fully resolve the phenomenon, preserving a space for wonder alongside empirical investigation. In reflection, the Bermuda Triangle serves as a mirror for human inquiry itself. Science explains the physical, measurable aspects: currents, storms, magnetic fields, and rogue waves. Mystery preserves the unmeasurable. Sudden vanishings, displaced time, strange lights, and stories of perception bending under unknown forces. Together, they form a narrative suspended between rationality and wonder. The triangle does not surrender its secrets entirely, inviting continual exploration while maintaining the tension that has captivated generations of observers. As the Atlantic horizon stretches endlessly, the triangle emerges not as a simple location, but as an experience, an intersection of natural law, human limitation, and cosmic curiosity. Waves continue their ceaseless motion, instruments flicker, and navigators confront both tangible hazards and inexplicable phenomena. In this space, knowledge and imagination intertwine. The Bermuda Triangle, ever elusive, reminds humanity that even in an era of satellites and supercomputers, some mysteries endure, defying total comprehension while inviting perpetual inquiry. Ultimately, The Bermuda Triangle exists between the known and the unknown. It is a space where science provides structure, but cannot exhaust understanding, where stories, myths, and survivor accounts fill the gaps that instruments cannot measure. The waters remind us that the universe is larger, stranger, and more nuanced than any map or equation can convey. Within this expanse, rationality and wonder are inseparable companions, guiding the curious toward truths that are partial, layered, and above all, profoundly mysterious. As the final rays of the sun melt into the horizon, the Bermuda Triangle stretches out in its vast, unbroken expanse, a tapestry of deep blues and shimmering silver. From above, the waters appear serene, deceptively calm. Yet beneath the surface lies a complexity that defies comprehension. Currents twist and intersect, magnetic fields fluctuate, and the ocean floor conceals valleys, ridges, and ancient formations untouched by human hands. The triangle is at once familiar and alien, a space where the ordinary motions of water and wind intersect with the extraordinary, creating an arena where disappearance, anomaly, and mystery converge. It is a place that humbles even the most seasoned mariner and challenges the most meticulous scientist. And as centuries of stories attest, it is a place where the ocean itself seems to retain a memory, a quiet witness to every passage, every misfortune, and every unexplained event that occurs upon its surface. In reflecting on the Bermuda Triangle, it becomes clear that much of its allure lies not in the measurable, but in the unknowable. While climatologists and oceanographers have mapped storms, currents, and geological formations with increasing precision, and historians have chronicled disappearances with painstaking detail, none can fully account for the enduring sense of wonder and dread that permeates the region. The triangle is a liminal space, existing between the laws of nature and the narrative of human imagination. Ships vanish, planes disappear, instruments fail, yet the waters continue their ceaseless rhythm, indifferent and eternal. Here, the ocean is both stage and storyteller, orchestrating phenomena that science may explain partially, yet never entirely, leaving gaps where speculation, myth, and mystery flourish. Odd micro-stories echo across generations, each reinforcing the triangle's enigmatic reputation. A private yacht, traversing the region in the late 20th century, reported encountering a dense, silent fog that rendered instruments useless. Compass needles spun erratically, radar blips appeared and vanished, and yet visually, the sea remained unervingly placid. Crew members later described a sensation of suspended time, a liminal moment where minutes felt like hours and hours collapsed into an instant. Similar tailies, ghostly lights beneath the waves, sudden squalls in otherwise calm waters, or planes emerging far off their intended course persist in both maritime records and oral histories, suggesting that the Bermuda Triangle is more than coincidence. It is a theater of phenomena that challenges ordinary understanding. Science provides a partial framework. Magnetic anomalies in the region, influenced by large basalt formations beneath the seabed, can disorient compasses. Shifting currents and the convergence of the Gulf Stream create unpredictable navigation conditions. Meteorological phenomena, from sudden microbursts to rogue waves, explain some disasters. Methane hydrate eruptions from the ocean floor, lowering water density, could theoretically sink ships rapidly. Yet, even when all these factors are considered, anomalies persist that resist explanation. Planes vanish mid-flight without debris. Ships disappear from radar with no environmental explanation. Time distortions are reported in multiple, independent incidents. Science illuminates the patterns, yet it does not erase the uncertainty, leaving an open space where the unknown asserts itself. Alternative perspectives flourish precisely in this space of partial knowledge. Researchers and theorists speculate about the triangle as a nexus of dimensional flux, a gateway where time and space behave differently. Some propose that underwater anomalies act as natural portals, drawing objects and vessels into hidden folds of reality. Others suggest that the region may host advanced, unidentified technology USOs, or unidentified submerged objects, whose activity produces both the phenomena observed and the lingering sense of unease. Even more speculative are cosmic interpretations, gravitational distortions, localized wormholes, or concentrations of dark matter subtly affecting matter, time, and perception. Each theory, grounded partially in observation yet extending into imagination, reflects humanity's need to reconcile the inexplicable with curiosity and narrative. The mythology of the triangle intertwines seamlessly with these scientific and speculative frameworks. Indigenous legends speak of guardian spirits and sea serpents, while European explorers recorded spectral lights and phantom fogs. Modern survivors whisper of unexplainable time lapses and spatial dislocation. Across centuries, the common thread persists, a recognition that these waters hold phenomena that challenge conventional understanding. The stories and testimonies, layered over geological and climatological knowledge, create a multi-dimensional portrait of a space where the natural, the human, and the mysterious converge. The triangle also serves as a mirror for human perception. Encounters with its anomalies often evoke profound emotional responses: fear, awe, and an acute sense of vulnerability. Pilots and sailors report disorientation that transcends mechanical malfunction, a psychological encounter with forces beyond comprehension. These experiences hint at a deeper truth, that mystery is not only external in the currents, winds, and magnetic fields, but also internal, emerging from the interface between human consciousness and the environment. The Bermuda Triangle, then, is as much a psychological and cultural phenomenon as it is a geographical or physical one. Micro-stories reinforce the intimate, human scale of these encounters. Survivors describe instruments ceasing function mid-journey, compasses spinning in endless circles, and radios crackling with static voices that convey no intelligible message. Fog banks materialize without warning, enveloping vessels in a ghostly silence. Some report strange lights beneath the waves, glowing orbs that vanish when approached. Even when no harm occurs, the sensation is unmistakable. The triangle communicates, subtly but insistently, a reminder of forces beyond human control. These individual experiences, stitched together across decades, centuries, and cultures, contribute to the region's persistent mystique. As the last light fades from the horizon, it becomes clear that the Bermuda Triangle's secrets are unlikely to be fully revealed. Science will continue to measure currents, map the ocean floor, and analyze magnetic patterns. Historians will continue to catalog disappearances. Pilots and sailors will recount their anomalous experiences, and theorists will speculate endlessly. Yet the triangle maintains a paradoxical balance. It is both partially understood and fundamentally mysterious, a realm where knowledge and imagination coexist, each enhancing the other. It exists as a reminder that the world is not wholly knowable, that nature retains enigmas beyond even our most precise instruments, and that the ocean, in its vastness, is a repository of secrets older than humanity itself. In the quiet moments after storms and the still waters beneath the sun or moon, the Bermuda Triangle's story continues. It may be no different from other oceans, obeying the laws of nature, shaped by currents and storms, magnetic fields and tides. Or perhaps it is a place where deeper truths reside, truths humanity is not yet ready to comprehend. The waters may hold the echoes of vanished crews, lost aircraft, and inexplicable phenomena, all imprinted into its currents, waves, and depths. The ocean's memory stretches beyond measurement, beyond understanding, preserving events in patterns too subtle to detect but too persistent to ignore. Ultimately, the Bermuda Triangle challenges our sense of certainty. It compels us to confront the limits of human perception, to recognize that even in the era of satellites and advanced technology, the world retains corners where the unknown prevails. Its secrets are not entirely hidden. They are written in currents, time anomalies, and the stories of those who traverse its waters. They exist between fact and myth, observation and speculation, rationality and imagination. And perhaps that is the point. The triangle reminds us that mystery itself is a fundamental part of the natural world, a space where curiosity, caution, and wonder intersect. As night falls, the triangle's waters shimmer under moonlight, calm yet enigmatic. The ocean, in its infinite patience, keeps its secrets, offering glimpses but withholding full understanding. Each ripple, each current, each wave carries the memory of events long past, of vessels swallowed, planes vanished, and stories whispered by survivors. In this timeless theater, the Bermuda Triangle endures as a place of beauty, danger, and infinite possibility. It is a space that invites both exploration and humility, a reminder that some truths, though tantalizingly close, remain just beyond our grasp. And so the question lingers, as it always has: what truly lies beneath these waters, and what are we not yet ready to see?